the weekend on charges of corruption, fraud and defeating the ends of justice. Despite the accused submitting that they won't interfere with the investigation, State Prosecutor Neba Mtelwa is adamant that if released on bail, they would intimidate witnesses.
It also revealed that all those witnesses were about to blow whistles on corruption and murder in the municipality. Examples of those are: bullet point 1. It is public knowledge that the famous deceased witness D told the country that applicant 1 was called to the murder scene at 2 o'clock in the morning, early hours of the morning, where he ordered the disposal of the deceased body into the dam.
Meanwhile, suspended Tshwane Metro Police Department Chief Umashi Dlamini will return for cross-examination before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry this morning. Yesterday, Lebogang Piri from the department's Roads Policing Division testified that he knew taxi tycoon Joe Sibanyoni from television but had not spoken to him.
Because I don't see how can Joe Sibanyoni be linked to me. But to Commissioner Baloyi, I don't know what businesses Joe Sibanyoni has with the city. All I know through social media, if you type Joe Ferrari Sibanyoni, it will tell you that that is a taxi boss. So I don't know his interest in the city. But I don't know him. I can't even point him.
Recapping the top story, residents of Kwadukuza are this morning expected to protest outside a local magistrate's court in the north of Durban. In KwaZulu-Natal, where 3 suspects are said to appear. The 3 people are accused of kidnapping and killing 7 members of one family on Tuesday. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAfm 104.6 FM in Kimberley.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Nearly 6 minutes past 9 here on the Daily Discourse. Welcome to the Friday edition of the programme. To wrap up your morning listening this week, I'm Joanne Joseph. The team is with me, Melissa and Ginewe, taking your calls and keeping the show on the road as always. I think everybody feels like they've been run over by a tractor this Friday, but the team has been working very hard, and many thanks to them for keeping the show on the road. Of course, Mondli is on sound and Junior is on camera. It's lovely to be with you this morning. I'm Joanne Joseph, and as usual, we are wrapping up the week with all the latest news, all the latest analysis, everything that is going on in your country, listening to your conversations and to your opinions, as always, on the Daily Discourse. Our studio line 086 000 2032, our WhatsApp line 0614104107. Keep those voice notes short, but we do love to hear from you, and you can listen to us on many media. You know that you can listen to us on the radio, obviously, and we're also on DSTV channel 814. Our X handle is at SAfm Radio, and you can watch us on Facebook and on YouTube as well, and we're also broadcasting, of course, from the SAfm website. So if you'd like to listen to us, you are more than welcome to listen there. Well, what a week it has been. The ANC and the SACP, is there a separation of sorts on the cards? The ANC telling members this week that those of them who have dual membership must decide who they want to campaign for ahead of the local government elections. Essentially, all of them in that situation are going to have to write to the ANC to tell the ANC exactly where they stand on this and who they will be campaigning for. So that is a really interesting question. It brings about all sorts of issues around loyalty, around exactly how the SACP is reacting to this. Did the SACP set this whole thing in motion by threatening, first of all, to go it alone, and then deciding that it was going to. Whose fault is it that this has come about in the first place? I'd love to hear from you on this issue. It's a very complex one indeed. There are also the bigwigs involved in all of this, and I think it's probably going to be hardest for some of them. I mean, think of the Higher Education Minister, Buti Manamela. Think of Science, Technology and Innovation Minister, Bladen Zimande. What exactly are they going to do about this? Who are they going to campaign for in the election? They serve at the behest of the president, right? And the president is an ANC president. So exactly how do they go about negotiating this? I'd be very interested actually to hear from one of them to find out how they are going to deal with this. And what's your feeling on this? Should the ANC be taking this kind of action? Has the tripartite alliance fallen apart? I mean, is it all but an alliance in name now? People have been saying that for a number of years. COSATU is not advising the SACP, it seems, to go ahead with this because clearly it has consequences for the tripartite alliance. But has the ANC simply been ignoring some of the things that the South African Communist Party has always stood firm on for years? I'm talking about things like nationalisation, about the alliances into which they enter with other parties. All of these are really, really important issues. And how does one go about negotiating them if you are not just in a kind of alliance with someone or a sort of joint venture with someone, so to speak? You actually support and campaign for another political party for a number of decades, and then you decide you're not going to do it anymore. Very complex indeed. We also have a new police commissioner, Puleng Dimpane, and she's acting, but she is replacing Fani Masemola. He's been put on precautionary suspension at the moment. The president announced that yesterday. I'm already finding the new police commissioner quite an interesting person. She's got a lot of policing experience, right? She's been on the ground for 20 years, so she is a cop. She's moved through the ranks, but she's also, interestingly, the only one who is not linked to the apartheid state, right? So in the sense that the others were products of the apartheid policing system, she is not. She's come in hoping that she's going to bring fresh blood and new energy, but also a sense of ethics into that portfolio. I was actually reading about it. George Fivers is the only police commissioner post-democracy who completed his term. The rest have all somehow just fallen by the wayside, and you start to ask yourself, what on earth has happened? How did we go about choosing police commissioners who all along the way simply collapsed during their term? Something about them went wrong, and it was untenable to keep them in those positions. What also interests me is that Puleng Dimpane is a whistleblower, right? She's the one who flagged the contract that Kat Matlala was given for the health and wellness services at the police service. And so you've got a situation where you've got this enormous tender worth around 360 million rand. She then, in her finance position, flags this as a problem with the suspended police commissioner, Fani Masemola. It takes him close on to 2 months, something like 50 odd days, to then suspend the tender, by which time Kat Matlala has already been paid 18.5 million rand. What was the delay? But it's interesting to me that the whistleblower has been chosen as the incumbent for this role for the time being. So I'd love to hear from you on that. And many of you are starting to call in. Finally, I just want to throw forward to something we're doing a little bit later on in the program. Eskom is actually producing more power than it's able to sell. And I think this was predicted by a couple of other previous Eskom managers. But what is interesting is that they're now sitting with 4,000 megawatts more than they can actually sell. And it seems to be because there's been such an investment in solar from many of your big companies, households, as well as small businesses, that actually we don't need as much power from Eskom as before. What happens when you make your own services obsolete, right? Or you reduce the demand for your own services? Eskom is probably the only SOE that has done that, probably the only company that asks you to use less of its product, and then when it starts to ask you to use less of its product, product and you do, it needs to put in place measures to try and get you to use its product again, but can't always deliver on the demand. So we're going to be talking about that, and we're tacking on to that a conversation about the issue of Johannesburg and the literal hoops you will have to jump through if you want to install solar in the very near future. So ALTA is opposing that, the Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, and we're going to have a conversation with them a little bit later on. Taking your calls now. Fix in Cape Town is on the line to us. Fix, good morning. You want to talk about the suspension of Fani Masemola? Go ahead.
Good morning, Joanne, your producer, and to the listeners. Guys, let me just start by thanking you guys and welcoming you in this new show of yours, and thanking you for picking up my call. I'm one of the people that are no longer calling SAfm because I've been exposing General Fani Masemola Begitsele and other former national and provincial commissioners. So it's lucky for me that I get this opportunity only right now, after you guys just came in, right? And I need to beg you again, guys, to make sure that we are not being used to actually block people from calling when exposing these things. Because our country is in this situation only because of people that are actually being used by the ANC government. Because most of the ministers were intimidating your producers and you guys as presenters not to take calls that are actually exposing the wrongdoing that is actually happening within the government and the SAPS.
Well, thank you very much for talking about that, Fix. I mean, firstly, for speaking about this issue of Fani Masemola, we need to ventilate it, and this is not an outlet for you to ventilate it. And I can assure you that neither my producers nor I will ever create a situation where we accept that kind of pressure from anyone.
Thank you.
We appreciate your input, and we're not a state broadcaster; we're the public broadcaster. So we accept a plurality of views. If you are able to justify what you are saying on this program, you are always more than welcome to call in and share information with us, and we will do our best to follow up on what you tell us. Fix, thank you for that call, and I hope you're going to be a regular caller from now on. Lowered is back with us. Lowered, I didn't know you were a police officer. Tell me about what you think about this whole development in regard to the police commissioner.
Okay, good morning, Joanne.
Morning,
and my fellow listeners. Yes, my sister, I appreciate. We roundly appreciate and welcome this latest development, especially when the president swiftly replaced NC, National Commissioner Masemola. And that was necessitated by the fact that the suspended NC has appeared in the court of law and formally arraigned for the transactions that it is allegedly committed. You know, I want to submit my capitulations where I'm sitting, since all these unfolding developments were revealed by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, because in the first, or initially, I had my reservations that perhaps because of the functional battles top there, maybe the arrest of General Khumalo was the pushing factor for General Mkhwanazi to have revealed this. But now, since all these allegations are being scrutinized and then everything is being brought to the open, we appreciate this, because otherwise our country was sliding towards what we can call a mafia-run state, because this is what we are witnessing right now. So my last point in this one, I am still grappling, Joanne, where I'm standing, since the allegations included the prosecutors or the NPA, some in the NPA and some in the judiciary. I understand that the president has got a prerogative to can extend this kind of investigations, but those institutions have not yet been touched. So I'm sure, I'm believing where I'm sitting, that if need be, there has to be another extension for all these investigations to be brought to the open, so that everyone who is involved in corrupt activities, one way or the other, has to be taken out of the system. Because we need the public to trust the police. We need that restoration for the public to trust that indeed we have got police of which you can trust on for the matters of safety and security in the Republic. So that's what I wanted to highlight this morning, my dear.
Thank you, Lloyd. Can I ask you a quick question, Lloyd?
Yes,
being as someone in the police service, how are you and how are your colleagues reacting to what you're seeing at the Madlanga Commission? Is there a sense of relief for you? Is there what's it done for morale in your ranks?
No. I can assure you that obvious morale, one way or the other, it has been negatively impacted. But since we find an oath as police officers, we know that anyone who is alleged to have committed crime, notwithstanding your rank, you have to face the law. So yes, the morale is impacted negatively somehow, but we are still soldiering on as police because we know what we are here for. We cannot be sitting down and bemoaning and all of that since the top officers are in trouble. It means those who are going to replace these people top there, they are going to do the right thing.
I'm really hoping so. Thank you so much for your call, Lloyd. Good chatting to you.
Thanks, Maggie.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an ABSA Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. ABSA Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the ABSA Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
SABC2 is bringing the heat. New shows, new faces, and stories that hit home like the one I'm in. It's called Pimville, and that's where you can catch me, Gege Mputi, every Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. sharp. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
Do you ever call you like to sell, but don't trust your uncle or your pal? Then we buy cars is just for you. Buying cars is what we do. We offer service with a smile. We always go the extra mile. Use a place that you trust and sell your car to us.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
20 minutes past 9 here on the Daily Discourse. Listening to some of your voice notes. One of you is responding to our caller Fix from a moment ago.
Hello, Joanne. Good morning. I think Fix lives in another planet. On SAfm, no organization bashed like ANC. Your Butana Compella, your Mike in Newlands, a majority of people, they come on air to bash the ANC. Nobody was ever blocked. But I think other people have a personal vendetta with the organization. I think some never got tenders they wanted, and then they're angry with it. I'm just a disillusioned ANC member. Kunkwali.
Good morning, Kathy. I just want to respond to a caller concerning a mayor or a premier being one of the protesters against the illegal foreigners. I myself, I don't think there is nothing wrong, because being illegally in a country is a crime. So any form of crime must be challenged. So it was important if maybe the premier or the mayor implement the in-bias laws, because those in-bias laws, if they were fairly applied, then we'll not see an influx of these illegal foreigners, especially for us, Shop. Thank you. Ndate Moremi, Bochoms, Navarana, Limpopo. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to hear all of you coming to us from different parts of the country. And one of you has commented on ANC members and SACP members.
I know for sure. The ANC members who belongs to the SACP as well. they will choose the ANC because that is where the resources are. And they want to be near the resources because they love their hands in the cookie jar. Citizen.
Thank you very much for those messages. That's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I'll take a call from Charlie in Koffiefontein. You want to talk about the South African Human Rights Commission, Charlie, and the Constitutional Court ruling that their findings are not binding.
Yes, good morning, Joanne.
Morning.
The Constitutional Court has made a ruling that whether the South African human rights they've got investigative powers, but now their recommendations are not binding. Now these people are kicking up a dust now regarding this finding of the Constitutional Court. You know, why am I agreeing with the Constitutional Court is that because now, what if the findings of the South African Human Rights Commission are not like legally? Now our court or our laws are now has to be forced for them to implement those directives that they give. So now I don't know why is it that they are kicking up a fuss. They cannot respect the Constitutional Court regarding the ruling now. They themselves think. Yeah, they themselves think that they are a law unto themselves. What they investigate and what they find should be implemented, and that should be it, which should not be the case.
I think, you know where I think their difficulty comes in, Charlie, is that they don't have the resources to actually investigate all of these cases and then take them to court on behalf of people. So sometimes they actually support people through the litigation process, right? But they don't actually have the funds to be able to do that. So they've been given a mandate and they're not fully resourced to actually fulfill that mandate. And I think that is where their difficulty comes in. A lot of people who wouldn't have had access directly to the Constitutional Court or other courts in the country, would then go firstly to the Human Rights Commission as their first port of call because they find it very accessible, and they go and they air their grievances there and a case is put together there. But then that next step of having to take it to court is sometimes out of the reach of people and also financially out of the reach of the Human Rights Commission because it's still got to be fought in court after that.
But would you want any directive or any recommendations or any findings by the South African Human Rights Commission to be legally binding? Because those people who are there, they are not law experts.
There are lawyers there. There are lawyers there.
There are lawyers, but I'm saying is that
there.
Yes. So why is it that when they find something and then our law says no, that your findings cannot be binding, now they are kicking up a fuss and doing everything like that?
Yeah, I think they're going to be applying for resources. If you ask me, they're going to be asking for more to be given to them to actually be able to carry out their mandate, because they're also battling with the number of cases that they have at the moment, and they're not able to actually even get through that caseload. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's watch that. Thank you very much for that call, Charlie. We've got a call from Lenze in Richards Bay about the acting police commissioner. Good morning, Lenze.
Morning, Joanne. How are you?
I'm so well, thanks. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks. Quickly, let me just make this one about the caller who was raising his concerns about SAfm, maybe kind of saying being censored towards certain political parties. I've been a caller of SAfm, especially this show, for as long as I can remember. I have never experienced that, and I'm not a member of the governing party. I was just passing the. Okay, let me quickly go to the acting commissioner of the police.
Yeah.
My point there, I've got 2 points on her there. I can say without fear of any contradictions or favor, the lady is going to be the second Ria Piaha, but a little bit of an upgrade because it's been in the system of the police services, but is not a career policeman. The lady is an administrator.
She is a career policewoman.
Is not. I can back my point. Let me back my point.
Yes, tell me.
Yeah. The lady is an accounting personnel. She's been dealing with finances at the police services, not like a career police, like if you can display the career of Ntantla, General Janjam Corners, you can see what I'm talking about.
I understand what you're saying, but she's been in the police force for 20 years. So
That does not mean...
didn't just walk into a position there as
That
a
does not
senior
mean...
administrator. But all police have to go through the basics, right? She would have had to rise through the ranks in order to get to the previous position that she held. So she is a career policewoman.
Okay, let me repackage again my context on this one.
Yeah.
She's been to the police, but not combating crime in the police. She's been on a finance aspect of it.
Yes, in the last few years.
Not operational in combating crime. So that position that she's occupying now, she's acting on now, need a person who is an expert in combating crime and sensing crime, detecting crime, and investigating crime. That she does not have those expertise. But let me quickly move from there.
No, before you move on, I'm gonna call you on this, Lenze, because firstly, you compare her to Ria Piecha, who's the only other woman who's held that position, right? So you've decided because Ria Piecha failed in the position that chances are that this woman is going to do the same. She doesn't have the same background as Ria Piecha. Ria Piecha had a social work background, right? This woman has a policing background. Secondly, what about all the other men who've been in this position who had operational policing backgrounds and failed at their jobs?
You've got a point there, I have to be honest. You've got a point there to say, as much as I'm scrutinizing her background and categorizing and putting it in the finance department, in finance expertise, finance expertise, but there are other males who've occupied the job. But I was not there. I was not on agenda. I was on the skills, expertise on the job at hand. I was there. I was not on agenda I'm not.
I didn't say you had a gender bias, but I mean, if the glove fits. But what I'm saying to you is that you had a lot of people working in operational policing for years, right? They held the position, and they made a mess of it. A lot of people made a mess of it. So what I'm saying is something else that the president said yesterday is that procurement is a huge problem in policing right now. And the whole procurement thing is part of what's led to the corruption problems in the police service. So if you can solve a large part of that and you've got someone with a mind for that, chances are you could solve a huge corruption problem in the police service that has led to the operational aspect of policing being severely dented by the lack of ethics in dealing with procurement.
I think the president was not good advised on this one, ma'am, Joanne. I have to be honest. You see, this aspect you are talking about, procurement and finances stuff, there should be a supporting system of a man whose actual man is policing. You see, another thing, when you're talking about she's been in the system, you see, ma'am, that's where I draw the line. There is a fine line between an experience on the job and a long service on a job. There's a fine line, and people tend to confuse the two. And an experience on the job is what you have learned and acquired by doing the job with your hands or with your brain. Going there, out there, get your hands dirty on investigating, detecting the crime, arresting criminals, and so forth and so forth. But an experience, the time taken, spending the time that you've spent on the job. So there's a fine line. You cannot say the acting commissioner right now, she's very vested in combating crime in this country. But in far as the expertise of finances, I can give her those accolades if I have to. But I'm going to touch on that one as well. Quickly.
I think I think because we've had quite a long call with each other, Lenze, and so I'm stopping you because you're repeating yourself. And,
you are dragging me.
And you are not. The problem is, I mean, if you feel that that an expert in operational matters is the answer, in theory, you've had a whole lot of people before this acting commissioner who were actually operational experts supposedly, and they failed at the job. So why repeatedly make the point that you need someone who's an expert in operations and imply that the current police commissioner has no operational experience at all? That's not factually correct. We have to be fair to her, and I mean, she's just starting in this role, and I think we have to give her the space to see how she actually utilizes this role. Let's take a call from Vuyiswa in Parktown North. You want to talk about the protests in Durban, Vuyiswa? Hi there.
Hi, Joanne. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, it's not only the protest, it is also the response from the Ghanaian president and his Minister of Foreign Affairs. And also I want to weigh into the people coming and talk about Ubuntu and not breaking down what they mean, because Ubuntu is a broad subject. First of all, I'm afraid because there's some people get offended when I mention my growing up in exile. It seems like I'm offending a lot of people, but my history is not it's not complete when I don't mention that, because I left this country at a very tender age, and I had to grow up in distant land because of my parents being killed by the apartheid regime.
I'm so sorry.
But some people
in what country did you grow up, Vuyiswa?
I was rescued to Botswana when I was less than 9. Then I was in Tanzania, product of Solomon Mahlangu, completing my primary. Then I was in Zambia, then London, and so many countries like Russia. And I'm an international citizen. Yes, of course. There's this whole phenomena that we are xenophobic. I think. If it means that, I am one of them, having grown up in distant lands. There's a problem here that our African brothers and sisters don't seem to fathom. When you get into someone's land, I'm bringing in the Ubuntu concept here.
Yes.
You need to respect the rules. There are rules in place, and you need to respect the men of the land. But we don't see it to the extent of the Ghanaian president yesterday and the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Ghana, interfering with this whole thing. Now it answers our questions that they are being sent by their own president to break the laws of the country and to disrespect us as South Africans. Because if you get into someone's land, you need to abide with the rules.
Yes, that's
You don't have to break all these rules that they are breaking. And Ubuntu cannot be abused, because I hear a lot of people abusing Ubuntu, comparing it to the Rainbow Nation. We are not a Rainbow Nation. We have not, if ever there's a rainbow, we haven't arrived there. As much as Ubuntu, it's a long way to go. Because as long as you don't understand, you don't have respect. Because respect starts at home, where Ubuntu is supposed to be one of your pillar, your foundation as you grow up. But when you cross the borders into South Africa, then you start behaving otherwise. It is questionable. Ubuntu is a concept. Break it down. And we have the white counterparts here in this country who are actually the very people who are importing illegal immigration. And I suspect, Joanne, there's misinformation in the continent. Because I remember one day I was in Cote d'Ivoire, I was coming from the US after I relocated back home, because I have to travel there every now and then, because I was married to an African American. So he passed on covering the news in the Middle East. But I have to get to America because of my ties. Someone was telling me in Abidjan that they understand we walk on top of gold. If the truth can be told, even you, the media personalities, tell the truth. People are going to bed hungry in this country. Lastly, the first time I met T.H. Mashinini, it was in Aunt Miriam Makera's house in Guinea, when Oliver Tambo had asked her to help because I was suffering from bronchitis. You know, I cannot say influence, but the things, the lesson I got from this machine was that we are struggling in the camp. If they donated this money, why can't they charge South African government? Because why were we going to bed hungry for 3 months without food? Those were menstruating by then, they didn't have sanitary pads. where did the money that they're claiming they donated go to? Because it seems that money ended in the hands of those who collected, and a few exiles who might have been friends to those who collected were given 5 pence, and that 5 pence is against Ubuntu for giving me a piece of bread and keep on reminding me about it.
Okay, so you feel okay. Thank you for sharing that with us, Vuyiswa. Vuyiswa clearly has experienced something from being an exile in countries like Zambia and Botswana, and she's making the point. I mean, one presumes as an exile that of course she would have been registered in the countries she went to, and that she, although foreign to those countries, played within the confines of the law in those countries. And what she's saying is that when people come to our country, they do need to go through all the legal hoops required in order to make themselves legal. Let's listen to some of your voice notes on this.
Good morning, Joanne. It's Joanne from Durban. You know, John, this thing of illegal foreigners and the government always coming up when they were being told to go back. It's like the government of the countries are sending them here. But the problem is, there are 5 South Africans who are arrested in Zimbabwe. Currently, as we're speaking, they're in maximum prison for not having permits. And the Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe said, if South Africa does not have laws, Zimbabwe has laws. Ghana now is complaining. Why South Africa can't enforce their laws? And then we talk on laws, because this thing is happening out because South Africa is not enforcing its laws. It's there in the constitution that we're always breaking about.
You know, you're so right, actually, because this is all about the enforcement of laws. The laws are there, right? So people are not allowed to come into the country illegally. The problem is, as we spoke about yesterday, our borders are porous, so our border management is a problem. But we should be respecting the laws of our country. Now, the laws of our country are a little complicated because we've also got a constitution that is very humanitarian in its at its crux, right, at its heart. So the way that it is drawn up is it opens us up to enforcing human rights in ways that maybe other countries' constitutions would not. Right, so you've got this the generosity of this constitution on the one hand, and then you've got the reality of people streaming across borders. You've got the reality of our border management officials and our police officials sometimes engaging in corrupt behavior so that people can buy favors, right? People have been known to be able to buy papers from people who worked at Home Affairs, who were dishonest. So you've got all these, it's not only the borders that are porous, it's the ethics of our law enforcement officers too. We do have laws around this, but they're not being implemented in the way they ought to be, or people would be more widely documented. We would have a greater sense of who ought to be in the country and who ought not to be. And it wouldn't be just an arbitrary system where, depending on whether you can pay a bribe or not, you get to stay in the country. And so this is part of the problem. The enforcement of this has been a huge problem. Let's listen to more of your voice notes on this.
Good morning, Joanne. This is Somdaga in Mutata. Just tell me, if you could invite me into a party at your house, would you allow me to dance over the table? If not, how much more when somebody did not even invite, that you do not even know, would do so? That's the way foreign nationals do here in South Africa. I don't care whether Zimbabwean, Mozambican, Chinese, Indian. For as long you are illegally here and start disturbing us here, that's now xenophobia. They must leave. This we not do in their own countries. Thank you.
Moro, Moni, Dumila, Bonjour, Habari. You arrived in South Africa to build something better. New place, new challenges, new responsibilities. Now you can with the Mama Money bank account. Pay your rent, take care of your daily needs, build your life, and when your family needs you, you don't wait. You send money home, quickly, securely, from wherever you are. Because this is more than money, it's progress. Buy your Mama Money card today at Pick n Pay or a Mama Money agent. Mama Money, now you can.
This Freedom Month, we reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all, under the theme Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAfm will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
The Daily Discourse, more than talk, real understanding.
Heading for 9:45 here on the Daily Discourse, and one of the big stories we've been tracking for you is this ANC SACP dual membership story. The African National Congress and the South African Communist Party seemingly going head to head in future elections. A few days ago, the ANC gave SACP members 10 days to clarify which party they plan to campaign for in the upcoming local government elections. The ANC said its constitution doesn't allow for ANC members to campaign for the SACP. Yesterday, both parties held separate media briefings. And let's speak to Ongama Mtimka, Acting Director of the Raymond Mhlaba Centre for Governance and Leadership at the Nelson Mandela University. Ongama is a political analyst. Good morning to you, Mr. Mtimka. Always good to speak to you. So for starters, is it clear to you why the ANC feels it necessary to demand of those who hold dual membership that they put in writing who they'll be campaigning for in the local government elections?
Good morning to you and your listeners, Joanne. Thank you for having me. So this is logical. This is a logical consequence of separation. If you build an organization that has got a close-knit identity and dual membership for some time, and by the way, in transition into democracy and for 30 years operate as such, then when one of the parties want to contest in elections on their own, that has got consequence. And one of the consequences are no longer continuation of some things which continued because the parties were not competitive rivals in an election. So the meltdown and the victim mentality that the SACP sounded to be attempting to exploit in their presser. To me, it shows a lack of accountability for consequences of their decision. And in fact, the idea that they should be treated the right to contest elections should be treated, their members should not be, persecuted for the party's decision, is a little unrealistic in my view, because the reason the SACP could and its members could continue to benefit from dual membership was precisely because it didn't contest the ANC. Now that it does, it cannot be that the members become privy, for example, to ANC election campaign strategy or vice versa, and still go on to campaign for a rival party. Yes, indeed, I don't think that the alliance itself has to be affected in terms of the principle of cooperation and perhaps things like first right of refusal to form a coalition to each party, and in fact some binding expectations that should an election result be declared, these parties would treat each other with a greater preference compared to other potential coalition partners. But to expect that the benefits of dual membership will remain intact when competitive rivalry in an election has been introduced is a bit unrealistic.
I mean, they're senior SACP officials who've held equally senior ANC positions. Gwede Mantashe in the ANC now as chair, also used to be an SACP chair. Higher Education Minister Buti Manamela serving as the Higher Education Minister there. Bladen Zimande also in Cabinet as Science and Technology Minister. How are they going to be expected to divide their loyalties here?
So there's a practical issue here of, one, the party has chosen a decision that has consequences. Now, they have to make a call, as the ANC is rightly requiring them to, which party they're going to campaign for, and declare that and follow through. It may be that if there is commitment to this principle of contesting election, that full accountability includes resigning from a seat that has come if you no longer want to campaign for the same party. I don't know if one tries an objective view. That I don't know to what extent could one be expecting the ANC to have another stance to this, other than one of expecting that accountability. So the senior members who are senior in the ANC or in cabinet have got to do the right thing of saying what do they agree with the most in this impasse, and make a decision that has got the consequences that will correspond with that decision. Some may decide to remain, and therefore the party may not take kindly to that. Others may decide to leave, and the ANC may not take kindly to that, but also that would mean losing positions, that some of which are income and earning positions.
So that was going to be an important question next. I mean, if you've got figures like Buti Manamela and Bladen Zimande in question, and they decide they're going to campaign for the SACP, are they out of their ministerial roles?
The interesting thing here would be that there are other principles that would guide roles in government, right? Because the ANC at a national level is in coalition with, in fact, even some of its worst enemies. It cannot realistically expect cabinet positions to be directly linked to the question of which party ANC's senior SACP leaders campaign for during this election. But it would definitely be within its rights to say senior leadership positions in the ANC itself would need to be sacrificed by these members. But in cases of ANC SACP mayors, for example, there would need to be a direct link between party choice and whether one is able to retain their position, because it's an election that affects that sphere of government. Look, this is a moving target also. They are thinking as they go. As it happens with all divorces, some of the things are not well thought out, so there may need to be a series of meetings that wish to establish principles that are not bullying, but meetings that say, realistically, here are the consequences of your actions, and realistically, here is what should be retained, and here is what cannot. Here is what would be untenable to retain, and those differences between roles in provincial and national government and how those may need to remain, even as roles in local government need to be forgone if there's a different party choice. It's things that they've got to co-design as they go.
Ungama Mtimka is acting director of the Raymond Mhlaba Center for Governance and Leadership at Nelson Mandela University and a political analyst. He's talking us through this rift between the SACP and the ANC, the ultimatum that the ANC has given its SACP members to say, decide who you are going to campaign for come the local government elections and put it in writing, and there will be consequences for people who choose the SACP, we understand. So we're getting a bit of more analysis on this in just a moment.
No one gets fit overnight. It takes discipline, and your money is no different. A Nedbank 32-day notice account helps you build financial strength with up to 7.3% interest and zero maintenance fees. The higher the deposit, the higher the return. Invest in under 2 minutes on the Money app and get money fit with Nedbank. For more information, go to nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank, we're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Hey there, need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat. Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to Joanne Joseph on SAfm.
All right, it is 8 minutes to 10 here on the Daily Discourse, and we're of course talking about the issue of the ANC and the SACP. And we're having this conversation with a political analyst, Ongama Mtimka, who joins us at this hour for a bit of insight into this story. So, Mr. Mtimka, I want to ask about the issue of what is in it for the SACP, right? Oh dear, our line has gone down for the moment. We're going to try and get Mr. Mtimka back, because he was bringing us some really interesting information about how the SACP and ANC are going to navigate this going forward. And I was just making the point that it is going to be very, very interesting to see how they manage cabinet positions. Gave the example of Bladen Zimande, the Science, Technology and Innovation Minister, and Buti Manamela, who's the Higher Education Minister, both SACP members, prominent SACP members, but they serve at the pleasure of President Cyril Ramaphosa. So that is going to be one of the areas, I think, where we're going to see this playing out in the most obvious and prominent way. So we've got you back on the line, Ongama Mtimka. Thank you for making yourself available to continue this conversation. I just want to ask about the issue of what is in it for the SACP, right? They don't appear to have much electoral support. They got just more than 24,000 votes in 2019. Why would they even want to embark on the next election alone?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I think that a lot of things have changed in the electoral environment. Remember that the ANC, SACP, and COSATU were a coalition that was, supposed to work on the basis of participation by especially the leftist members of the alliance, their influence on roles and other things. I think that what has come to be a key issue is that to wield significant influence in the ANC, they see that the inability to prove their weight in a coalition directly translated to seats either in parliament, legislatures, or municipal councils does affect their bargaining position. Many a times they have felt that the true intent of the alliance, that is co-governing between the ANC and its leftist allies, were trumped on, excuse the pun, on a number of ways as a result of them not having, a best alternative to a conciliatory outcome. So, for example, if an ANC president departed from the position of the alliance when it comes to deployments and other things, there was always no consequence. The consequence was political and it didn't affect government. That's the only reason I would assume that at a time when the voters in South Africa have actually voted for even smaller parties with lesser, history and brand equity, that they are beginning to test their waters. But I must say that the opportune time for this decision was long ago when, in fact, it was first made in 2007. But every time that this decision was made, because remember, it was made in 2007, it was made in 2012, and recently. So in fact, even in 2017, if my memory serves me well. But every time, the SACP hedged its bets on the outcomes of an ANC conference as to whether they would go on to implement the resolutions of the conference to contest elections alone. And I feel that those were the times when they missed the most when it comes to the potential impact of the decision in tangible electoral support. But I suspect that the leaders have said to themselves, they will take whatever small representation they can have as long as it strengthens their bargaining position when they engage the ANC. Obviously, the electoral market left of the ANC is already crowded by the EFF as well as the EFF as well as the MK party. So coming into an electoral environment already with groups that are, dominant. And by the way, it's not that we haven't tested in South Africa 2 times the idea of a workers' party or of a party that has socialist leanings. In 16, we had the United Front that ended up contesting. In 19, we had the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party. Both of those performed dismally, even in places where you've got an industrial worker base. So it's going to be an uphill for the SACP, but it looks like they are prepared to take the consequences.
Thank you so much for your insight into that story. Ongama Mtimka, he is acting director of the Raymond Mhlaba Center for Governance and Leadership at Nelson Mandela University and a political analyst. 2 minutes to 10 here on the Daily Discourse. We're having these conversations with you both on the phone and on our WhatsApp line. Let's listen to some of your voice notes now. Now, a lot of you are commenting on the appointment of the acting police commissioner.
Good morning, Joanne. I would like to agree with the Lens and also agree with you also. Because you see, General Timpane was there in the ad hoc committee. She admitted that she doesn't know some of the other things on the field about combating crime. She sometimes has to adjust the budget through the advice of those who are on the field. At the same time, we don't have a problem with the skills or whatever. The problem we have here in this country, it is consciousness and integrity. If we have those 2 things, everything gonna go right. We must give her space and a chance and see what she can do.
I think so too. Let's listen to one of your voice notes on undocumented migrants and South Africans taking the law into their own hands.
Hi, Joanne. People of South Africa are taking the law into their own hands. Reason why is because the department are not working, like police, the defense, and the home affairs employees, law enforcement. As a result, Ngizom Kunu and others in KwaZulu-Natal, they are trying to harass all illegal immigrants. And then I wish Ngizom Kunu, with his own groups from the KZN, can work collaboratively with Operation Tutula, because the government of here in South Africa are failing. My name is Les.
Les, thanks very much. 10 o'clock here on the Daily Discourse. Let's get your latest news with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Joanne. On the top stories, Boksburg Magistrates Court to rule on Mkhwana's and Lerutla's bail bid and suspects linked to KZN family killing to appear in court. For SAfm News, I am Ondela Mbana and a very good morning. Suspended the Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi and City of Ekurhuleni Manager Kagiso Lerutla back in the Boksburg Magistrates Court, which will rule on their bail application. They were arrested at the weekend on charges of corruption, fraud and defeating the ends of justice. The accused have submitted that they wouldn't interfere with the investigation, but the state is adamant that they would intimidate witnesses if they were released on bail. Suspended Tshwane Metro Police Department Chief Umashi Dlamini is back before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. He's accused of influencing an 800 million rand security contract. Dlamini is alleged to have favoured specific service providers, including assisting his brother to secure a contract. The son of the late former Zimbabwean President Bellarmine Mugabe and co-accused Tobias Matonje are expected to be sentenced in the Alexandra Regional Court in Johannesburg this morning. The two appeared in court last week where they pleaded guilty to several charges, including attempted murder. Luyanda Danqa reports.
firearm and contravening the South African immigration laws, while Tobias Motonde pleaded guilty to charges of attempted murder, illegal immigration, possession of ammunition, and defeating the ends of justice. The postponement to this week was to give defense time to find the weapon used in the attempted murder of Sipho Mahlangu. Mahlangu, who was employed at the Mugabe residence in Hyde Park, Johannesburg, was shot and wounded in February. The gun that was used is not yet found.
Residents of KwaDukuza are this morning expected to protest outside a local magistrate's court in the north of Durban in KwaZulu-Natal, where 3 suspects are set to appear. The 3 people are accused of kidnapping and killing 7 members of one family on Tuesday. The residents are demanding that the accused be denied bail in the case, which has intensified their fears as violent crimes continues. DA caucus leader in KwaDukuza, Privi Makan, says the incident points to a deeper societal crisis. A study says giant octopuses may have been among the top predators of the world's oceans when dinosaurs still roamed on land. The research is published in the journal Science. It questions what is known about underwater life 100 million years ago. The BBC's Helen Briggs has the details.
For decades, scientists have believed the biggest ocean predators at the time of the dinosaurs were animals with backbones such as sharks and marine reptiles. The evidence suggests some of the earliest octopuses grew to extraordinary sizes with powerful arms and crushing beak-like jaws for hunting large prey. Researchers at Hokkaido University in Japan say the animals may have reached total lengths of up to 19 metres, potentially making them the largest invertebrates ever known.
Recapping the top story, suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi and City of Ekurhuleni Manager Kagiso Lerutla back in the Boksburg Magistrate Court, which will rule on their bail application. I'm Wondelambana for SAfm News, headlines at 10:30.
SAfm. Prime time all day long. The Daily Discourse on SAfm. Weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
4 minutes past 10 here on the Daily Discourse. Thank you for joining us in the second hour of the programme. It is Friday, thank goodness. And our studio line is open to chat to us, 086 000 2032. You've been really good at keeping your voice notes relatively short on our WhatsApp line, 0614 104 107. But I'm going to ask you to do the same when you call in, please. Think of it as an elevator pitch, right? You know how the elevator pitch works. You've got to sum up your point in a very short time before the person you're pitching it to leaves the elevator, right? So make it short, make it sharp, and let's get in as many of those calls as we can do. All right, 5 minutes past 10, and let me tell you what we're talking about at this hour. We are talking about the issue of President Cyril Ramaphosa placing the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, on precautionary suspension and replacing him with Lieutenant General Puleng Dimpane, who is going to act in that position for a little while. I've already been hearing from you on that issue. More of your voice notes are coming in right now. Let's start with a couple of those. Here we go.
Good morning, Sis Joanne. Bongo Sondi Samboisa, Sis Joanne. Commissioner Masemola was said to retire this year. He was supposed to go on retirement. It was his final year. But now that they've suspended him, I doubt he will retire. Because now he wants to get that free salary on suspension, like with full salary for the next 4 years. So he will get it for free. When will that case be finalized? Maybe in 2030. So even if I was away him, I was definitely not going to retire. I was going to enjoy this free salary. That's like that deputy commissioner in Limpopo who's been getting full salary since 2023. She's on suspension. When will they finalize the case? The lady is eating money for free for the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's amazing that this happens in our country. But, you know, you're anticipating something that may actually happen for quite a while, because the president can't just, if he decides after an investigation that that the National Police Commissioner needs to step down, he can't just make that decision, right? He's actually got to start a commission of inquiry. The inquiry has to look into the National Police Commissioner's fitness to hold office. if the outcome of that inquiry is that he is not fit to hold office, that is when the president can cut his job. So it is a very complicated process indeed. Your calls coming in, Ali Zanin, and you want to talk about the killings in South Africa. Ali, good morning.
Good morning to you, my sister Joanne. Yes, this is Alan Timane from Parare village in Zanen. My sister, let me start by saying I welcome the decision taken by the president to put Masemola on suspension.
Okay.
I welcome that as a citizen of this country. But I have a problem here. My biggest problem is when is the president going to implement the death penalty in this country? Because our citizen, our innocent brothers and sisters and grannies and grandpas are getting killed every day, and we've been singing the very same song sang by the frogs in the river. So we are always singing that let the death penalty be brought back, but nothing is happening.
Okay,
So,
and I'll tell you why it's not happening, Ali. It's never going to happen under the current constitution. Current constitution ensures the right to life, and so any law that contradicts the constitution would not be able to be introduced. So under the current constitution in its present form, we are never going to see the death penalty.
yeah, you are right there, my sister. You are right there when you say the current constitution says the right to life. What about those who are?
Yes,
what
yes.
about those who are killed?
No. I mean, I hear you. I mean, we've all been victims of crime. We've had family members who are victims of crime. But I think we also need to have a conversation about a society that spawns criminals in the first place, right?
Okay, my sister.
So,
Last but not
you.
least.
Thank you.
Last but not least, my sister.
Ali, I'm going to move on to the next call. In fact, no, actually, we're going to take a break right now because we are running out of time. But I'm going to ask you, I love to have conversations with you, but please keep your comments short and sharp so that we can accommodate other people as well. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get back to that issue of Fani Masemola's suspension and his replacement with the new acting commissioner.
Last year, the Proteas women were runners-up in the final of the ICC ODI World Cup against India in front of 1 billion cheering Indian fans.
The new champions of the world, India.
Now Laura and her team take them on home ground with your unwavering support behind them. Watch this unmissable T20 International Series versus India live this April with 2 games in Durban, 2 in Joburg and 1 in Benoni. Let's get behind the Proteas. Tickets are selling fast. Book today at cricket.co.za. Dare to be unbreakable.
Top Billing is back with a bold new chapter and fresh new faces
As
leading
we
the way.
celebrate 90 years of existence, SAfm takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Berea, the home of the 4 bespectacled Tisson brothers, all of whom work or have worked on the English service, particularly Audio Mix and Radio Today. Watch how the night proceeds towards dawn.
And
I need a lot of consoling when I started the early program. People couldn't believe that John O'Donnell and B. Reid were chosen for the early morning program, because if ever 2 announcers used to want to swap a morning shift for an afternoon shift, John and I would do it.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAfm.
So excited about Top Billing coming back. I got away from myself there. Top Billing is back, of course, with a bold new chapter and fresh new faces leading the way. Get ready to experience the world of luxury, travel, design and inspiring stories with our dynamic new presenters, Zuzi Benzi Tuni, Bryony Govender, Arno Greef and Sinemivuyo Mpulu. They will bring their unique style, energy and perspective to every moment. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3, Thursday the 30th of April at 7 p.m, repeats Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1. Top Billing is back. You don't want to miss it.
The Daily Discourse, more than talk, real understanding.
11:10, and we are talking policing in the country. Almost a day after President Cyril Ramaphosa placed National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola on precautionary suspension, the country is trying to figure out whether his successor will manage the post better than her recent predecessors have. Masemola appeared in court earlier this week, accused of contravening the Public Finance Management Act over a multi-million rand tender that alleged criminal Kat Matlala secured through his company Medicare 24. Ramaphosa put Lieutenant General Puleng Dimpane into act. Let's get some analysis on this from independent crime and policing consultant Dr. Johan Burger. Dr. Burger, always good speaking to you. There was so much dissension among experts on whether Fani Masemola ought to have been suspended or not, some believing a possible PFMA violation wasn't as serious as corruption, others saying a police commissioner needs a spotless record. How do you feel about the suspension, Dr. Burger?
Well, good morning. I must say I am also part of the group that believe that perhaps the president should have just waited a little longer. And the reason why I'm saying so is twofold. First, the Police Act does provide for the appointment of a panel presided over by a judge and two other persons that can investigate the actions of the National Commissioner as well as his fitness for office. And I thought, that would be the less disruptive route at this stage. Also, secondly, because I think, stability in the police service at this stage is also extremely important. And given the fact that Fani Masemola has shown and given his support since the beginning of the Mkonazi investigation in July last year, his press conference, where he exposed the high level of corruption amongst police officers, other members of the criminal justice system, as well as politicians. And I thought, given the fact that General Mkonazi has openly stated his trust in General Masemola and the fact that he is supporting him, I thought that, appoint this panel to investigate the National Commissioner and advise the President and at the same time maintain some form of stability within the police during this extremely difficult time.
So, Dr. Burger, there's some interesting dynamics here because we also know that Lieutenant General Puleng Dimpane flagged the tender as potentially problematic, first of all. The suspended police commissioner sat on it for 50-odd days, even though there were reasons to believe, cogent reasons to believe, there was something odd about this tender. And then he only acted once Kat Matlala's company was paid $18.5 million for that. Doesn't that suggest that there was enough evidence there for the president to at least be able to say, well, instead of perhaps this man is not dishonest, perhaps he's just negligent, perhaps he's not agile enough. And given the current circumstances like the Madlanga Commission and other issues like this being thrown into the mix, we have to be seen to be acting against everyone who is not playing by the rules here.
No, you're absolutely right. It is a very concerning aspect of this whole case, the fact that Masemola seems to have been aware of the so-called red flags about this tender process, and he didn't act on it. And I also find that extremely, hard to agree with. But I'm just looking at the broader situation here in terms of his operational experience, his policing experience. I mean, if we look at the acting National Commissioner at this stage, she is General Dimpane. She is in the police service now for less than 20 years. She has almost no operational experience. And, to have a good track record in terms of financial management doesn't make you necessarily the best person to run a huge organization like the police service at this stage without any operational experience and surrounded by a number of more senior generals. So, this was, I'm not saying that General Masemola should be left untouched because of his apparent negligence. But still, I think, we could have stretched the process in a manner of speaking by allowing this a panel that the Police Act provides for to investigate and determine precisely what the extent of his negligence in this case was, and then advise the president. And it wouldn't take such a long time to conduct that process. So that's the only reason, but I'm not completely at odds with the president's actions in terms of this precautionary suspension. I'm just trying to balance the situation. You on the one hand, you've got this special team now under General Mkonazi, who is going flat out to further investigate the role of organized crime in the police and also the rest of the criminal justice system. And he relied heavily on the support by General Masemola. And I'm not certain or convinced yet that General Dampani would be able to provide the same kind of support. But, it's just a very difficult situation at the moment. So I think let's go with the president's decision here, but be aware of the fact that there are also other factors to keep in mind.
Dr. Berger, you mentioned something important there a moment ago about Ms. Dimpane's experience on the admin side of things, right? And we've been having this discussion with our callers as well. We understand she's got about 20 years of experience, maybe just under 20 years of experience in the police service. Would she have moved through the ranks or as an ordinary police member, getting the training, working on the ground, etc., on cases, solving those cases potentially, and then would she have moved as she was promoted into the admin side of things, or would she have been someone who was hired for the purposes of carrying out the admin side of things and have no operational experience almost at all?
Yes, that's the thing. From my because I didn't know this general at all, so I did a Google search on her, and the information I gained in that sense is that she joined the police service in 2007 and was appointed as a senior superintendent then, which is a full colonel in the current rank system. So she joined as a full colonel in 2007 and was immediately involved in financial services. So she never worked at a police station or at any other operational unit of the police service. So in that sense, she has no operational experience, and she has, let's say, in a manner of speaking, a weak understanding of the challenges that police service members face on a daily basis out there on the street, whether it's uniform detectives or intelligence operators and so on. So she will have to rely heavily on those experienced members around her now in management, top management. And the president did say that there were discussions with other senior members who undertook or promised that they will support her. So she will have to rely extremely heavily on that sort of experience and support.
I mean, I made this point earlier, that we've had a lot of police generals who've moved into this position, and they have years, some of them decades of operational experience, and yet they were still not able to succeed in the role. So is it better to have a situation where you've got someone with a great deal of operational experience who for some reason, perhaps issues around ethics and the like, may not be able to fulfill that role, because procurement is a huge problem in the police service, and we've seen the president allude to that? Or is it better to simply have the lack of operational experience, have the administrative experience, and depend on advisors to guide you as to operational decisions as a police commissioner?
Joanne, that's a valid point to make, but let me point out that I maintain my position in terms of an experienced police officer coming through the ranks to take up the head of the police position and other higher ranks in the police service. Well, depending on the nature of, what he or she is expected to do. Financial services, I have no problem, to hand over those responsibilities to someone with that kind of experience. But an operational officer is best as overall commander. But there is one weakness and about this, and this is the manner and process of appointing such an official, national commissioner and the deputy national commissioners. And this, I think, is where the problem is. This is the heart or the root of the situation that we currently have, because you simply have a situation where the president appoints the national commissioner. The constitution says that he or she, as president, can appoint a man or a woman, or must appoint a man or a woman. There are no other criteria, absolutely no other criteria for the appointment of such an official. Now, the national commissioner, who then is appointed, appoints the deputies. So also absolutely no criteria. He or she can appoint any person, and he's likely, if he doesn't have a sound character, or she, they will appoint people that they believe will support them in whatever they then hope to achieve during their term in office. And if it's persons with an inclination to dishonesty or to satisfy certain political pressures and services, then you can bet your life on it that the incumbent, the national commissioner, would similarly appoint then people to assist him or her in that situation. Now, it's interesting that the National Development Plan of 2012 and President Ramaphosa was part of that process. In their report in 2012, they made certain findings about the manner in which high-ranking police officials are appointed and promoted. And inter alia, they recommended that a panel of experts be appointed with outside experience, multidisciplinary experience, and that they then compile a shortlist of candidates for those positions, national commissioner and deputy national commissioners. And then, of course, they need to make certain that all of those candidates are properly vetted, and then submit those names to the president. And then he can appoint the national commissioner and deputy national commissioners based on the recommendations by that panel. And this has never happened. 12 years ago, those recommendations were made. And today, we sit with the situation as we have it, and it could have been avoided if we adhere to those recommendations already then.
You know, you've given us such important specifics here on what this job description requires. Thank you so much for that input, Dr. Johan Burger. I want to take a couple of callers. We've got Elias on the line from Mpumalanga. Elias, do you have a question or a comment?
Thank you so much, my sister, for taking my call. Mine is a comment to say that, look, the president was caught between a rock and hard surface here.
Sorry, we're having a bit of a problem with the line here. Just a second, please. Elias, you can go ahead now. Apologies for that.
Thank you. I was saying that let's take into consideration that this week, the Deputy National Police Commissioner, General Msikile, her information just came out to say that NPA, IPT has finalized their investigations. They've referred the docket to NPA. Now, definitely the president had no one to appoint. And we cannot say blame the president anyway for having taken this decision of suspending the National Police Commissioner. Mind you that soon, the very same General Masemula will be appearing alongside Ket Matlala. Now, where will be the image of the police be when the whole National Police Commission, irrespective of the charges, but for him to be appearing alongside Ket Matlala, that really damages the already damaged image of the police service.
Interesting comment there about Elias. I'm going to stop you there because I've got one more caller on the phone. Pule in Matlosana, you also want to comment on this? A quick one from you, please, Pule.
Yes, I'll be quick on this one. I won't touch what other people have touched. My bone of contention is in South Africa, we rush to conclusions before evidence. The commissioner is going to appear in court. He appeared in court, then he was warned. Now, there are people that say the president must fire the commissioner as if it's a political deployment. This man has been employed, full-time employee of the state. Now, why can't we wait for a case to run? He might be acquitted or found guilty, but in South Africa, quickly, once Pule is alleged to have done 1, 2, 3, no, fire him. How many people that went to court and won case when the police says and the state says we have a tangible case to win, and at the end of the day they lost a case? Now the commissioner will come back again. This case can run for 5 years or 4 years, 4 years or 5 years. Then he comes that I was unfairly dismissed. Yes. I need all my benefit. Yeah. I need all that I have lost. It's a taxpayer's money that we are wasting, but we are quick to rush the public court of opinion. When there's a competent court of law, then the public court of opinion rush to acquisition.
Thank you. I'm going to leave it there because we are running out of time. But I think you're both, and our previous caller Elias, making some important points there. But I think Dr. Johan Berger has opened this up for us so well. Some of what he explained to us is that there are mechanisms before suspension to recommend how the president should act on this. So perhaps that's something that the president should have actually made use of before he suspended the National Police Commissioner, right? Having said that, you cannot necessarily have someone in a position who is suspected of serious wrongdoing. And if it's true that Ket Matlala's deal went through because the police commissioner was negligent, then we have a very serious problem on our hands. That contract runs into hundreds of millions of rands and does not take 50-odd days for a police commissioner, when he is presented with cogent evidence, to be able to make a decision like that. So it at the very least may reflect a lack of agility on the part of a police commissioner, which is a problem in a huge procurement deal like this. So let's see how it all plays out. Thank you so much for your comments and for your calls. We have now hit 10:30 here on the Daily Discourse. Wandela Mbana standing by with your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Joanne. On the news headlines, we start with breaking news. The Alexandra Regional Court in Johannesburg has heard that the victim in the case of the late former Zimbabwe's president's case was paid 250,000 rand in exchange for silence. Suspended Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Julius Mkhwanazi and City of Ekurhuleni Manager Kagiso Lerutla are back in the Boksburg Magistrate Court, which will rule on their bail application. And suspended Tshwane Metro Police Department Chief Umashi Dlamini is back before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
The Daily Discourse on SAfm. Weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
10:30 here on the Daily Discourse. Following a lot of stories for you. You just heard Ondela speak about that issue of the Mugabe son. The alleged victim apparently paid 250,000 rand, and he will be paid another 150,000 following the February shooting in Johannesburg. That is the breaking news that SABC News is bringing us at this hour. And of course, what's also happening in Boksburg at this hour is that there's going to be a judgment today in the bail application of two EMPD officials, officials, Julius Mkwanazi and Kagiso Lerutla. Now, strictly speaking, Kagiso Lerutla is a city manager. So he was in admin there. And oh gosh, we heard the most horrific allegation yesterday that he was involved in paying a tow truck driver apparently an amount of 10,000 rand to remove the body from a scene after an accident. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this bail application plays out, and that is still underway in the Boksburg Magistrates Court. I'm going to take a quick call from Bonakele on Mugabe's son's sentencing. Good morning, Bonakele. Hi.
I'm going to ask you just a little bit because there's this toy going, the people, if you can hear on the background.
Yes.
But okay, I'm sitting in the vehicle.
Are you
right
there?
now.
Are you actually there?
Come again?
Where are you? Are you at a protest? Or
I'm in Kaelicha now,
Yes,
but no,
okay.
I'm sitting in my vehicle. But it's a toy, but they're going somewhere to submit their whatever, you understand?
Yes.
In our townships or whatever. But they're going past now, so they're toying and all that.
Yeah,
And in fact, a lot of them, they've just gone. I wanted to talk about this Mugabe issue, you understand?
Bellarmine Mugabe.
The son of,
Right.
Regarding with his co-accused of pleading guilty. So, in fact, what I was going to talk about is it's kind of pleading guilty. Are we expecting them to get a light sentence or not? And just listening on news right now, the bribery is something that was offered to that victim, you understand, of 200 and some odds rand.
Yes.
So that's adding something as well.
Yes.
Are we really going to expect, because the guy pleaded guilty, so he must get a light sentence? I don't think so.
Look, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see. I can't judge. I can't prejudge what the judge is going to say in this case. But these are really serious charges.
In fact,
I mean, yes, you've got attempted.
I was raising this because in most cases, when someone pleads guilty,
they get a lighter sentence.
It happens that they get a light sentence.
Yes, sometimes they do. I mean, this is a very serious charge, though, because, I mean, Sipho Mahlangu, who was the employee, was shot twice in the back, right? So it's an attempted murder charge. And there are also issues of their being in the country illegally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the country illegally, and bearing in mind, again, the gun that was used has not been found.
No, it's a cocktail of charges. Thank you for that, Bonakele. It's certainly
absolutely.
A cocktail of charges that they are
nice
facing.
Great.
Thank you. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what the court decides here and how it deals with these defendants who've pleaded guilty to this attempted murder. Very serious charges indeed. And again, you're dealing with the issue of the alleged bribes that were offered. You're dealing with the issue of the illegality around their status in this country. So I'm not going to make any predictions. I'm not in a position to make any predictions about how the court is going to rule in that regard. But we need to keep a very close eye on that. That is quite an important story. All right, in just a short while, we are going to be talking about the issue of farm workers in the Western Cape. And, we don't often enough, to my mind, draw attention to the story of women in particular in the Western Cape who are working on farms. And it may not only be women in the Western Cape. There are women workers all over the country who live and work on farms, who live in really awful conditions. And many of them end up being evicted from those farms. And many of their families have worked on those farms for either decades or longer than that. It could run into over a century, because many of these farm workers have come from generations of people who've lived and worked on those farms. And their treatment is really poor. Many of them in the Western Cape have been evicted, right? They're kicked out. They have to go and live in informal settlements. They're living in awful conditions. And so they had a protest yesterday. They marched to Parliament and they asked for certain rights. And we're going to talk about those rights that they feel they are entitled to. One of them is the right to land. So we'll take that up with someone who has been watching this very closely, the Women on Farms Project co-director, who's going to be telling us exactly what they asked for. In a short moment, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but I also do want to listen to some of your voice notes. You're commenting on the Fani Mosamola issue.
Morning, JJ. There are people who are ministers of health, but they are not doctors. What's the big deal? And if Masimula wins and then sues the government, what will happen? But if he doesn't win, is he going to pay back the money? Thank you, JJ.
Thank you very much. Very unlikely we'll see that money again. But let's see. Let's not preempt what happens in this case. I mean, it's going to be quite a process before the president even decides whether he is going to remove Fani Masemola as the actual commissioner. One of you wants Mkwanazi in that role. Let's listen in.
Good morning, Joanne and listeners. Marumo Mumahiging. I want to commend the president for quickly suspending the national commissioner. He was not even supposed to go to court with that as a national commissioner. But now, was it not the time for the president? I know even those who have operational experience have failed in the police services. But now this is the time the president was supposed to appoint a General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The man has shown he's capable of everything, being it operational, being it administration and everything. He could have just appointed the man and closed the chapter once and for all. Good morning, Marumo Maike.
Thank you for that. But how many jobs can one man have, right? He has to sleep at some point. He's got his job as the KZN police commissioner. He's got another job now, heading up a crime-fighting unit that's going to look into organised crime. So I'm not sure that he wouldn't have been able to take on a bigger job than that. I suppose he would have had to move from his position of KZN commissioner to National Police Commissioner. But I think he's got very important work to do on the ground there, and I think we need him where he is right now. Take a short break. We're having this important conversation about women farm workers in just a moment.
SABC2 is doing big things, and that's why I am here. I'm talking new shows, fresh energy, and stories that are going to move you. Pinkville is just the beginning. I am Mandla Gaduka. Catch me Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Live in every beat, the pulse of SA.
Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
Locally, we've seen an increase in petrol, in diesel, in paraffin. We inevitably are going to see an increase in food prices.
This current time needs for us to move to highly structured financial conversations in our households. We need to account for our money, stick to our budgeting, understand where are the leakages. This is the time to maybe perhaps sit and look at your bank statements for the past 3 months and say, where's my excessive spending?
Siban Joba joins us, certified financial planner and wealth manager.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Top Billing brings you the very best in lifestyle, luxury and inspiration. From breathtaking homes and dream destinations to exclusive access to the people shaping culture and success. This is where style meets substance and every story shines. Tune in to the new season of Top Billing on S3, Thursdays at 7 p.m. starting from the 30th of April. Repeats Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1. You can also stream Top Billing live on SABC Plus, available on all app stores and on your smart TV. Top Billing, the best of the good life.
The Daily Discourse, more than talk, real understanding.
10:40 it is on the Daily Discourse, and Ground Up's been reporting on a march that took place outside Parliament yesterday in which over 100 farm workers and residents called for land. The Women on Farms project asked government to speed up land redistribution to women living and working on farms. Many women are believed to be living in deplorable conditions on farms in the Western Cape. Carmen Lowe, who's co-director of the Women on Farms project, joins us now. Good morning to you, Ms. Lowe, and thank you very much for your time. Please just paint us a picture of the conditions in which women and their families are living on farms right now.
Good morning, Joanne. So women on farms are dependent on male partners for their tenure on farms, and women only access housing through a male relative, either father, brother, husband or son. which makes them increasingly vulnerable towards GBV because they don't have their own independence. And then often the farm housing, we have one of the richest municipalities in the Cape Winelands where you still have pit latrines that are not being serviced. Women also don't have toilets and access to clean water when they work in the vineyards and orchards. So those are just some of the many times also houses are not being maintained. So you do have houses with cracks in, especially the older houses. So that is on farm, and once they're evicted, as you mentioned earlier, they live in informal, overcrowded informal settlements.
I mean, what's not clear to me, these women and often their ancestors have lived on these farms for generations. Is it clear why so many of them are being evicted without any kind of impunity?
Well, the post-1994, the Extension of Security of Tenure Act was enacted, and that act is linked to the employment of the worker or the occupier. And because women are often only seasonal casual labor, they don't have housing rights in their own right, tenure rights in their own. And therefore, when a husband dies or when a woman are divorced, they must leave the farm. And that increases. It's not only women who are being evicted, but they are disproportionately, they suffer more because of generational gendered discrimination on commercial farms.
Yes. I mean, they need to be legally protected. Do they know, firstly, what their rights are? And can they access any kind of legal assistance in asserting their rights, Ms. Lowe?
So as an organization, we train women on the various rights, their tenure rights in terms of ESTA, also their rights in terms of land reform and land redistribution. And legal aid provides a service. The Department of Land Reform and Rural Development also assists with processes pertaining to the ESTA Act. The challenge is, however, there are lots of loopholes in the law that landowners and their legal teams use. The law is not, the tenure rights in ESTA is not an absolute right. As I said, it's a right linked to the employment. So if they are not being employed, the right to live on the farm is terminated. And what happens now with lots of farm sales, when the new owners take over, they don't employ the current occupiers, which gives them then a right to apply for eviction orders. Also, government's oversight is not as it should be because of capacity, budget cuts, and they can articulate that. But what Women on Farms, through the protest action, particularly wanted to highlight is that the ESTA Act has been amended and it came into effect in April 2024. And in terms of that act, the tenure grants are made available so that the Department of Rural Land Reform can buy land either on the farm or off the farm. And that will ensure that people don't end up in informal settlements. But to date, the department cannot provide statistics of how and when that particular section has been implemented.
I just want to ask you about the ESTA Act. Is that a provincial or national government function to police it and make sure that the people who are affected are actually protected under that law?
It is a national government oversight, but they do have provincial offices. And the newly established Land Court, they also have oversight. And I must say that the Land Court is now conducting provincial sessions to look at all the relevant legislation and implementation with pertaining to land, whether it's land claims, land restitution, ESTA, labour tenants. And then the department must come and provide data and feedback. And it's at one of these sessions of the Land Court that the department could not provide statistics when asked.
Yeah, that's quite disturbing. I mean, I see the protesters are asking in particular for unused farmland, which doesn't sound like an unreasonable request. Is there much of that land lying fallow in the Western Cape?
There is, especially agricultural. The Western Cape has these experimental farms, but it's been a lot of those land are not being used at the moment. It's managed by the Department of Agriculture, but the title is under the Department of Public Works, and that's why we've also included those two ministries in the memorandum of demands, because we say as a law, make that land available so that it can be redistributed to people who've worked that land for generations, because those experimental farms has been there for decades, and there's now lots of unused land, whereas people from those farms who are no longer working on those farms are even being evicted and end up in informal settlements. I mean, we've had a case now that's being concluded where seasonal farm workers were evicted from Transnet land. So we're saying that is state land that Transnet is not even using. So why doesn't the Department of Public Works make that land available for decent housing? So the question is broader. The big issue is obviously the commercial farmland, because 72% of commercial agricultural land is still in the hand of commercial farmers. 32 years into our democracy, and what does that say about our constitution that mandates government to redistribute land and to oversee the land reform process? So that's the one. But then low-hanging fruit should be the state land that can be made available.
But see, there's a potential business opportunity here that government is also missing, right? In the whole debate around job creation. We talk about how difficult it is to create jobs. There is unused land that the women are asking for. It's lying fallow. It's not being farmed. But here you've got women who actually have the skills to be able to farm it, and they could acquire the kind of management skills that are required to start running their own little farms or small holdings. Why are government departments not even talking to each other about the potential opportunities here?
That's the big question, and that is one of the demands is that the three ministries, there must be a multi-party or multi-departmental ministerial meeting to discuss these issues, and also the issue of transformation, because the current agricultural system creates unemployment, seasonal unemployment, and thereby seasonal hunger. We've just presented at the South African Human Rights Commission's inquiry into food systems, how the current food systems perpetuate seasonal hunger, evictions, exposure to pesticides. So there should be a bigger conversation about land reform, not only land reform, but also agrarian reform, where small holdings can be created, where women can farm differently to sustain themselves, but also to provide a different kind of food system that's more accessible and inexpensive to local communities.
I'm really hoping that your calls don't fall on deaf ears, Ms. Lowe. Here, what you're asking for, I think, is a very important thing. Carmen Lowe, co-director of the Women on Farms project, joining us there to talk about the plight of women in that area. Do you know of women who are in this situation in that area, who've been evicted from farms they've been living on, or their ancestors have been living on for several generations? They're kicked out. They're expected to live in informal settlements. They're living in the most awful conditions. But these are women with skills, right? And if the department could just hand them some of the land of its own that it's not even using, that's just lying absolutely unused, wouldn't this be an opportunity to create work, to create small businesses in that area, and equip women in that area with the skills to be able to, first of all, be financially independent, and second of all, educate their children, break that cycle of poverty that has existed for so many generations on farms in the Western Cape? There's a kind of a historical hangover that frames this picture, right? This has gone on for well over 100 years. It's gone on for a few hundred years. And you have one generation after another being born into poverty. You don't have any opportunities for the coming generations either. And one small intervention could break that cycle of poverty. We really need our leaders, and our government leaders in particular, to be able to look a little more closely at the situation, look at the opportunities, and try and allow the women that we are talking about here to be able to latch onto those and change the course of their and their descendants' lives. Just after 10 minutes to 11 here on the Daily Discourse, we're chatting to you in just a short while.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons, right here on SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
8 minutes to 11 on the Daily Discourse with me, Joanne Joseph. I'm taking your calls. I'm asking you to keep them short and sharp, please. Patrick, Uber driver, is on the line to us from Pretoria. Patrick, hi there.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. What's on your mind, Patrick?
You know, what's on my mind is a very disturbing thing. I will try to be very short, but it's a very painful and emotional thing. I'm driving an Uber driver.
Yes.
I mean, I'm driving an Uber. Let me not say an Uber driver. I'm an Uber driver. Oh, yeah. Now you've got a situation just across Gauteng. I don't know about other parts of the country, but it seems like it's a challenge where permits are no longer being issued out, especially in Gauteng. I will be specific in Gauteng. And when you go there, they are saying we are waiting for a directive that we must reissue them again. And you've got companies operating in the e-hailing. You've got the Wanatu, which is the main Afrikaner e-hailing company that has a ruling from court that allowed them to operate without permit. And the argument was raised by a judge is an issue on that judgment or on that interim order that the capacity is on the side of the Gauteng Department of Transport, not on the side of the companies or the drivers not to have permit. But you keep on seeing the traffic in Gauteng Traffic Police and all the metros impounding cars for that are driven from Uber, Bolt, or even InDrive. And you ask yourself a question, that what is it different from the Afrikaner e-hailing company that is allowed to operate because there is a judgment that said they must operate because it's not their fault that permits are not done, but it's the Gauteng Department of Transport. But the people who are driving Uber, Bolt, and these other e-hailing or InDrive, their cars are being impounded. Like right now, there is a guy whose car has been impounded in Pretoria because there is no permit. And you ask yourself, how is it different? Because all of us are trying to survive in this issue of unemployment that is so high. Because when you look at the contribution this is doing towards people, it's thousands, hundreds and thousands of people that are depending on Bolt, or e-hailing companies to survive.
I wonder why police are not distinguishing or are distinguishing. That's my question, Patrick. It seems very strange that if they're aware that all the drivers don't have permits at the moment because those have not been issued, they should all be treating you equally unless there is, unless there's some sort of deviation from that. But I'm going to have a look at that for you. I'm going to ask my producers, Kenewe and Melissa, to look into that to see if there's any kind of deviation from that. The last that I've been able to see on this is the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport calling on the e-hailing app drivers to register their apps with the National Transport Department. And that's about all that's been said. That was said on SABC News in September last year, and there's been no update on what's happening with those permits. So thank you very much for making us aware of that, Patrick, and we'll keep talking to you about that. I can give you my word. We'll take more of your calls on that or any other issues that are on your mind. Many messages coming in about Fani Masemola's suspension, and let's listen to your views on that.
Morning, JJ. There are people who are ministers of health, but they are not doctors. What's the big deal? And if Masemola wins and then sues the government, what will happen? But if he doesn't win, is he going to pay back the money? Thank you, JJ.
Thank you so much for that. You know, I'm in two minds now, because when I started the show, we had a discussion with one of our listeners who said this, the lady who's taken over, Ms. Puleng Dimpane, doesn't have any experience from an operational point of view. And I had the impression that you actually could not enter the police service without going through the training and that kind of thing. But Dr. Johan Berger, who's a policing expert, tells us that she was hired as an administrator. So she does not have the operational experience that a police person should normally have. And so I'm now in two minds about her appointment. I believe that one can perhaps use advisors and that kind of thing, but it's a little different, you know. It's like bringing someone in to run this radio station. They don't have any experience with media at all. They're an administrator. They're an accountant, for argument's sake, but they don't understand the anatomy of media. And so when they tell me to do my job, or when they're trying to fix problems that prevent me from doing my job properly, they wouldn't really be able to advise me on how to fix those problems because they don't have the operational experience. So, you know, having listened to that interview, I'm in a little bit of doubt now as to how this is going to be handled and whether the Lieutenant General is actually fit for that position and what it requires now in a service that is deeply operationally flawed and complex. Let's listen to some of your views on other issues like undocumented migrants.
My fellow South Africans, it is with deep regret that I must inform you that so long as the ANC is in power, foreign nationals are here to stay. Because ANC members went into exile, and we as South Africa must pay for that sin of the ANC of seeking shelter in foreign lands. Now foreign nationals have got a right to get free air visa in our country. They've got a right to get whatever benefits that we as South Africans get. They too get those same benefits. So long as the ANC is in power, we must just find a way to live with these foreign nationals. They are not going anywhere.
So, I mean, it's a very difficult line to walk, right? We know that the ANC was in exile in many different countries in Africa. That was a formalized system through which they worked. And so, but there's part of me that feels we do owe our fellow African countries loyalty. And I buy into the concept of Pan-Africanism, that you know, we are siblings on this continent and we look out for each other in times of difficulty. But also, more than that, we have a constitution that has very specific ways of seeing things, and it influences the way our judges rule on issues like this. So when, for example, you have undocumented foreign migrants going to a hospital and people are trying to bar them from doing that, you'd have a court ruling that then says, at the very least, all pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children under 6 deserve to have access to those facilities regardless, because of the nature of our constitution and the way it was drawn up. We're going to have the discussion about a constitutional review yet, and I wonder whether South Africans are going to ask for this kind of spirit of Ubuntu. That's the way I'm framing it anyway, that is contained in our constitution, to be reviewed in order for our country to actually take on some of the attributes that you wish it could in terms of the way it deals with these immigration issues. But we'll have that discussion certainly in the next few days. It is 11 o'clock right now. Ondela Mbana is standing by with your latest news bulletin. Let's get that from her.
Thank you, Joanne. On the top stories, Bellarmine Mugabe alleged victim paid for silence, and Umashi Dlamini testifies at the Madlanga Commission. For SAfm News, I'm Ondela Mbana, and a very good morning. The Alexandra Regional Court in Johannesburg has heard that the victim in the case of the late former Zimbabwe's president's son's case was paid 250,000 rand in exchange for silence. An investigating officer says the man who had been shot and wounded in February was going to be paid another 150,000 rand. The victim had been employed at the residence of the Bellarmine Mugabe and co-accused Tobias Matonje. The two are appearing in court for sentencing. Last week, they pleaded guilty to several charges. Suspended Tshwane Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini says that purchase orders for service providers in the city of Tshwane are before services are rendered. He is accused of influencing an 800 million rand security contract. Dlamini is alleged to have favoured specific service providers, including his brother, to secure a contract. In his evidence before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria, he has contradicted that of suspended CFO Gareth Mnisi, who previously said that purchase orders were created after work had begun or been completed. Advocate Matthew Chaskalson is leading Dlamini's evidence.
Because I also was confused by what the CFO said in that regard, because he seemed to be suggesting that the PO only gets issued after the work is done. And that's incorrect, is it not?
No, he started the process after work has been delivered.
The Umkhonto weSizwe Party says that it is watching with keen interest if the country's law will be applied fairly. This after the former Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batohi, formally declined to give further evidence at the Ngabinde inquiry in Pretoria. Batohi said that she considered the decision carefully. The inquiry is investigating the suspended South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office. Batohi walked out during cross-examination in December, citing the need to consult, a request the inquiry later refused. Mzwanele Manyi is the MK Party's MP.
The fact that she, even leaving the commission, she absconded. She did not leave nicely, she just absconded. That alone is a crime. And not only did she abscond, she is now refusing to go back there. That is another crime. We look at the commission to see whether the law of not attending is just a Zuma law or it's a law of South Africa. We are watching with interest as the MK Party.
A British health data project has blamed rogue researchers in China for the confidential details of 500,000 volunteers being put up for sale on a Chinese e-commerce website. The UK Biobank uses hundreds of thousands of people's medical data and DNA sequences to improve the detection and treatment of serious illnesses. Professor Naomi Allen is the organization's chief scientist.
This is the result of actions of a few rogue scientists who are giving the global research community a really bad name. And we're very sorry to all of our 500,000 participants that this has occurred. We appreciate their concerns, which is why we have taken very swift action together with the UK and the Chinese government to get these listings taken down as soon as possible.
Recapping the top story, the Alexandra Regional Court in Johannesburg has heard that the victim in the case of the late former Zimbabwe's president's son's case was paid 250,000 rand in exchange for silence. I'm Mondulambana for SAfm News Headlines at 11:30.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. The Daily Discourse on SAfm, weekday mornings from 9 to 12.
4 minutes past 11 here on the Daily Discourse. We're entering the final hour of our program. I'm Joanne Joseph. It's been lovely talking to you, hearing from you, and tackling some of the big stories of the day with you here on the Daily Discourse. And remember, our lines are open. We are still taking calls, so you're welcome to get hold of us. You can also speak to us on our WhatsApp line. You can send a short voice note there. You can send a text as well. I'm being a little bit stricter today about the length of our phone calls, right? Because I know there is the tendency sometimes to phone in and once you get going and you're in full flight, not to want to stop. But we have to take as many calls as possible. And so I'm going to ask you to call in, make your comment as quickly and sharply and succinctly as possible. Allow us the space to move on to other issues as well. Now and then I throw in a question to you and we have a little bit of a discussion. But I very much would like to take as many calls as possible. So let's please just think about other callers who also want to have their say on the show. The longer your phone call is, the fewer other phone calls I can take. In this hour, we're talking about the issue of power. So this is an interesting and important one for a couple of reasons. I think many people have invested in solar power. And we're talking about households, we're talking about small businesses, we're talking about larger scale businesses. But there are also communities that are investing in solar. And I was reading about it the other day. It's very interesting where, because solar is actually still relatively expensive as a new form of energy in this in this country. But there are communal ways of doing it as well, so that communities can now pool their money and invest in solar power together. And that is increasingly happening. I think the community aspect of it is taking a little bit more time to take off. But I think other people have actually made the grudge purchase in the last few years. Businesses have said, let's bite the bullet. If we're not able to generate business, it will sink our business if we don't have power, and we are dependent on Eskom for power. So let's do what we need to do. And hopefully this will pay dividends in the future. Hopefully the system will pay for itself in the months and years to come. And so many of them have opted for that. What does that mean? It means that Eskom is sitting with more power than it had before, because you are using less of their power, and so they've got more power than they can sell. My broadband brought us that story, and I'm going to explore it in just a short while to find out how much power Eskom has over, and how this is going to affect Eskom's sustainability in the long run. That's the one issue. The other issue linked to that in terms of solar power is that City Power is looking at putting in place all sorts of what Outer says are fairly bureaucratic measures to ensure that solar is, more controlled, that the installation of solar is more controlled in the city of Johannesburg. And I'm going to talk through that with Outer's Wayne Duvenage in just a short while and find out exactly what the idea is behind this, but also what it'll mean for you if you've got to jump through a number of hoops trying to get your solar access sorted out from a bureaucratic point of view before you even have it installed. And a lot of people who've been through this process before and have avoided that are probably heaving a sigh of relief as we speak. So at 8 minutes past 11, I'm going to take a quick call from one of you, and then we're going to start talking about the issue of power. Zwi in KZN is on the line to us. Zwi, what's on your mind this morning? Welcome. Okay, we have a problem with our line to Zwi, so we are not going to take that call right away. Hope we're not having another problem with our lines today. We did have a bit of a problem earlier in the week, and I think that has been sorted out, but keep those calls coming. I can suggest perhaps that we can listen to some of your voice notes at this hour. Many of you are seized with the story of Fani Masamola's precautionary suspension and the Lieutenant General standing in for him, so I want to quickly listen to one of your voice notes on this.
Good morning, Joanne. I think you are too quick to cut people off. One guy from KZN told you that the lady who is acting has no experience of a police officer. And when he told you that, when he was explaining, you cut him. And now comes this expert. He tells you the same thing. It's only now that you hear. Please take time to listen to the people. Let them finish their points so that you can understand what they're saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And you're actually partially right there, because I disagreed with him based on what I knew about police training, right? So I've interviewed people before who've told me about the process that police have to go through before they can take up certain positions there. And so the information that I gave was based on information that I'd been given by experts. But after speaking to an expert who was able to confirm that the acting police commissioner had no actual operational training, I did actually mention a short while ago that I'm now a little bit more cautious about this, because I'm not sure whether a police commissioner can actually go about the day-to-day running of the police service without actually having that experience. But please, I'm going to make another point, and I made it a short while ago, and I'm going to make it again. When you phone into a program, you're not standing up there to do a soapbox speech. You make your point, you interact with the presenter, and then you move on. And we move on to other stories, and we give other people a chance to speak. I think people have got into the habit of speaking for a very long time and being listened to for a very long time while they repeat themselves. I'm not unfortunately going to be able to allow that on the program, because it means that we can take fewer calls and we can hear from fewer of you if I entertain that. So once your point is made, please do not repeat yourself. I will have to go to the next call, and unfortunately that is just the way it has to be on the Daily Discourse in order for us to accommodate the plurality of voices that we require. If we hear too few voices on this show, then we're not getting the spread of voices that we need to hear everybody's opinion. Zui has called us back. Hi there, Zui. You want to speak about the killings in Kwadukuza. Hi.
Hello, good morning, Joanne.
Morning, Zui.
No, it's not Zui. This is Owen from Tanin.
Apologies for that. I didn't
Not a
realize
problem.
that. Go for it, Owen.
Okay. My contribution today is around the introduction of electronic document management system in the public health. It pains my heart, Johan, when I go to public hospitals. You find 100, 500 people queuing for their files in order to see a doctor and having to wait for 3 hours. The other day, I was at one of my local hospitals. I arrived there after 7, and there was this lady who got there just around 5. When I got there, I quickly got my file, and only to find out that they are still looking for her file.
Gosh.
I am told that the receptionists who are working there during the day, it's about 3 or 4. I think now they have employed some interns to assist with the problem. But what happened is that during the day, people are taking out files, and there is no one who's taking them back to the storage. So immediately after consultations, files are thrown down on the floor. I think there is a storage room where they are thrown in. So the next time when you have to go and consult, someone has to go through all the files on the ground in order to find your file.
Gosh, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Owen. I mean, it is such a worrying thing. And it's such a simple thing to do, right? You've seen the patient, take the file, put it back where you need to, or put it in a pile that you will restore to the file room on that day.
Here's the simple and cheaper thing, Joanne.
Yeah.
Why don't you find out from the health minister? Won't it be cheaper to introduce an electronic document management system?
Absolutely.
You go
Why
there,
we're
you
using
present
files
your
as
ID,
a...
they just punch in your number on the system,
Yes,
and then you
yes.
quickly go and see the doctor.
Yeah,
Hospitals
absolutely.
will be able to see a whole lot of people a day,
Right.
rather than the current status. Thank you
Quite
so
right,
much for
Owen.
taking my call.
Thank you for that. And I completely agree with you. We should, I mean, it's 30 years into democracy, right? The technology is there. We should have automated those systems. Government will probably say that it will be a very expensive exercise, that will be have to be put out to tender, etc., etc. But I don't see why in this age when we're talking about AI that we don't have access to this kind of technology. All right, 14 minutes past 11 here on the Daily Discourse. My broadband telling us Eskom is producing more power than it can sell. In a matter of 4 years, the average hourly electricity demand on Eskom has dropped by 4,000 megawatts. That's what was cut from the grid when we had stage 4 power outages. Now, figures from the National Transmission Company of South Africa apparently show that demand for Eskom power is dropping among South African households, small and big businesses, and it seems that's mostly thanks to solar. Let's get the details from energy expert Mohammed Mahdi, who joins us on the line now. Mr. Mahdi, good morning. So many of these businesses and households having installed solar panels in the last few years. Would you say this is the main factor that's reduced demand for Eskom power?
Good morning, Joanne, and good morning to your listeners. Yeah, absolutely. So, over the last few years, we've had approximately 5,000 megawatts that has been built behind the meter. So in other words, where people put in, whether it's businesses or residents, put in, solar systems and other systems on their site behind the meter. So this is a major trend that has been occurring. And just, a little bit of an important point around this. In the last 2 years, Eskom lost more clients to renewable energy than they had lost in the previous 10 years.
Good heavens.
So that gives you an idea of the acceleration of that particular trend.
So where does this reduction in demand leave Eskom in terms of revenue?
So you see, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, there is reduction in demand during parts of the day. but it's not a reduction in base load. And this is quite an important distinction. So Eskom still has to keep that capacity, because there are parts of the day and times in the day when a big portion of that capacity is still required, just given the nature of renewable energy. But on average, throughout a 24-hour cycle, there is less power that is now being demanded. So Eskom is a very difficult situation. What changes here, and what has changed in the last year to ease the situation somewhat, is those people that have been putting in solar systems, wind in some cases, they're now adding battery energy storage. And battery energy storage has the distinct advantage of allowing power to be stored and then utilized during those peak times when Eskom had to keep that additional capacity. So this is now changed the dynamic for Eskom somewhat, and it does mean that looking ahead over the next 3 to 5 years, Eskom is going to have a severely diminished customer base. But they're going to have to still maintain this big network and their generation fleet and everything else. So their cost base is not going to decrease accordingly. And of course, they have this big debt burden, so they still have to service that debt, which means that Eskom goes into what we call a typical utility death spiral. This has happened in other countries. It's not new. It's something that's very foreseeable, and it's now happening to Eskom.
I mean, it's also a large employer with a big salary bill and, as you say, a fair amount of debt. What will happen to those workers and the payment of Eskom's debt if the demand for sustainable energy continues to grow at this pace, Mr. Mahdi?
So, that is not a misleading question, but it is in some sense quite misleading, not because, of your intent, but here's the issue. There is going to be a loss of employment. There's no doubt about it. And it's going to affect the 30 or 40,000 workers that Eskom has, or a portion of those workers. But the thing that is often overlooked, from a perspective of the country, the question should really be what happens to employment if energy prices drop? And the fact is that employment goes up, because a lot more businesses become profitable, a lot more manufacturing becomes more sustainable, and overall, a lot more new developments get undertaken. So from a country and national perspective, we will have increased employment, much, much more, overshadowing the 30 or 40,000 jobs that are at risk. Now, one doesn't want to be careless about saying this, but you have to look at the national picture. So there are some workers that are going to be affected, but there's going to be a whole lot more jobs and opportunities created with lower energy costs.
Right. And of course, I suppose, workers could be retrained for new jobs to be able to feed the economy. Eskom still somehow, Mr. Mahdi, qualifies for above-inflation tariff hikes from NERSA. Is that going to persist under the current circumstances?
So unfortunately, it will get worse, because you will have this shrinking customer base with an expanding cost base. And that means that, Eskom, just to keep the lights on, no pun intended, is going to have higher than inflation increases, because the revenue generation is currently, if you just apply them, inflation escalation is not going to be sufficient. And this is the problem. The higher Eskom goes with their tariffs, the more attractive alternative energy sources become.
Thank you so much for your insight into that story. Mohammed Mahdi is an energy expert talking to us about Eskom having more power, essentially producing more power than it's able to sell. So we'll take a short break right now, and when we come back, I want to get into this more specifically about the city of Joburg and certain regulations that City Power wants to introduce that may make it more difficult for you as a resident of Johannesburg to access clean energy.
Attention all shoppers. Our supermarket shelves are full of unhealthy food. It's often hard for me to know which foods are good for my family. The information on packaged food is complicated and hard to understand. I wish we had easy-to-understand warning labels on foods high in salt, sugar, and saturated fat. We have the right to know what's in our food. Support front-of-package warning labels on unhealthy packaged foods. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
This Freedom Month, We reflect, we remember, and we celebrate how far we've come. 30 years into democracy, South Africa continues to shape a future grounded in justice, equality, and opportunity for all, under the theme Freedom and the Rule of Law. 30 years of democratic citizenship. SAfm will bring you all things freedom, the voices, the stories, and the conversations that matter. Join us as we honor the journey and explore what freedom means today. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Top Billing is back with a bold new chapter and fresh new faces leading the way. Get ready to experience the world of luxury, travel, design and inspiring stories with our dynamic new presenters, Zozibini Tunzi, Bryony Govender, Anu Greef and Sinemevuyo Mpulu, bringing their unique style, energy and perspective to every moment. The all-new season of Top Billing premieres on S3 Thursday the 30th of April at 7 p.m, repeats Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1. Top Billing is back. You don't want to miss it.
The Daily Discourse. More than talk, real understanding.
11 here on the Daily Discourse, and the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse is upset about a new solar approval process that City Power wants to prescribe for Johannesburg residents and small businesses who want to install solar power. OUTA says City Power's 6-step process will increase costs and delays and will confuse residents. OUTA CEO Wayne Duvenage is standing by to explain this to us. Good morning to you, Mr. Duvenage. What does the 6-step process entail?
Good day. Yeah. Hi, Jan. It's a process that now, before you install solar energy, you've got to get permission. You've got to apply, get application forms. They've got to come around and inspect your premises before you get approval to go ahead and install your solar system. And then before you can even turn it on, they've got to come back and inspect it, make sure you've got your certificate of compliance and so forth. Now, this has never been in place before. The public, as you know, tens of thousands of businesses and households have installed solar to mitigate the high costs of electricity and just the unreliable supply of electricity. And this has not been in place before. So now you've got to go through all this, and it does slow down the entire process of installing. And it's certainly creating a bit of havoc when it comes to the whole industry and the installers themselves. And it's putting people off going down this road and making it difficult. You just don't need, in this day and age, this type of interference and red tape on matters that really have nothing to do with the city.
Well, in terms of these inspections required before and after installations, is this not to ensure that all safety concerns are adequately addressed, Mr. Duvenage?
No, not at all. The safety concerns are addressed when you get your certificate of compliance. You cannot install these systems without a certificate of compliance, and that the installers know and the industry knows. And if you've got a certificate of compliance by a registered electrician, that is the safety ticket, and that is the law in this country. And the city's inspectors do not understand this. This is not their domain. We must allow the laws of the land as they currently are to continue to work, and they have worked. There have been no reported cases, as far as we know, related to unsafe conditions where a system has been installed with a COC. Now, it doesn't mean to say it might not happen, or there might be one or two, but in the greater scheme of things, this is just a red herring on this whole safety issue that the city, and not only the city of Joburg, city of Cape Town and others, keep hanging their coat on with this argument that they want this oversight and they want this registration process to happen.
So why, if the installations that have been carried out so far meet safety requirements and are compliant with the law, do you think City Power and other city entities are introducing this kind of process?
Joanne, we've got to understand, and that's what we want to know, what is the ulterior motive and the reasoning here. One thing we do know is that, cities and Eskom have, as a result of this poor management of the electricity supply process in this country, forced people to find their own solutions to mitigate the pain of these interruptions of electricity and the high costs. And that's hurting their revenue streams now. So what they're having to do is to put in place these high fixed network fees and costs so that they can, earn more money to replace the revenue they're losing from the electron sales, the electricity sales. And that's causing a lot of angst. And people are on prepaid meters, prepaid systems, are now being forced to go to postpaid systems so that the city can earn more revenue there. That's one of the reasons, amongst others. So yeah, and obviously they just need to make more money. They're also trying to get the residents to pay for the new smart meters that have to be fitted, and that's not for our cost as citizens. The meters belong to the city and Eskom, and not the ownership and property of the households and businesses. So where they're coming from with this idea to now start charging residents, I mean, I know they're broke, but that's a problem they have to fix and not charge and shove these unnecessary charges and this administration red tape down the throats of citizens who are just really trying to get on with their lives.
So, Mr. Duvenage, is this almost a done deal, or is the public being asked to comment on this? Will there be some sort of process before any such bureaucracy of this kind is actually put in place?
Yeah, it doesn't appear that they have gone down a process of getting public comment and in place. They've just put this notice out recently, which is why we are slamming it, and they have reached out and requested to have a write a reply to our statement. And we're saying, fine, let's meet, let's have a discussion, because it goes far beyond this. There are many things that are wrong with the city of Joburg, City Powers Department. I mean, for instance, where some households and businesses have taken themselves completely off the grid. In other words, they don't rely on the city anymore for their power. And the cities can, if they want to, just take their meters away. They should not be charged the fixed fee, and yet they continue to be charged. And the city needs to answer to why they're doing that. That's an unlawful process, and this is also another matter that's going to be challenged in court. And what's happening here, Joanne, and it's sad to see this, because if the city was run properly, you wouldn't have this migration away from reliance on the city for its electricity. And so they're shooting themselves in the foot. And they're just making this spiral just get worse and worse for themselves from the financing of the city's needs point of view. And it's not going to stop unless they change their attitude and approach to how they engage with society on dealing with this challenge they've got.
Do you see, if the system is implemented, that they want to, the 6-step process, do you see more people just going entirely off the grid so that they don't have to depend on the city for power at all?
Yeah, I think that's happening every day. More and more people are weighing up the costs of 1,000, 200, 1,300 rand a month costs. You know, many households and businesses are very close to being off grid. They rely on the city or the supplies of electricity for 10, maybe 15, 20% of the electricity, and it's going that final step, putting in place gas or diesel generators, and they are very quiet and far more efficient these days to top up when there is cloud cover, putting in more bigger battery systems. Those decisions are now becoming more and more viable, and we're seeing more and more businesses and households going completely off grid. And when that starts to ramp up and the costs come down more and more people go off grid, it just leaves the city in a worse and worse situation. So they really have to embrace this differently. And it seems to us that their heads are in the sand on this matter.
All right, so let's hear from you after you've had this discussion with them, and I wonder whether you are going to be able to change their minds about this. Artist CEO Wayne Duvenage, thank you so much for your time on the program. That brings us up to just about 11:30 here on the Daily Discourse. Let's catch up with Ondela Mbana, who has your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Joanne. On the news headlines, the Mudimule Regional Court in Limpopo has dismissed defense lawyers' application to have charges against the 3 accused in the Palapala case dropped. Magistrate Peter Mantata has ruled that the accused have cases to answer. The Alexandra Regional Court in Johannesburg has heard that the victim in the case of the late former Zimbabwe President San's case was paid 250,000 rand in exchange for silence, and suspended Tshwane Metro Police Department Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini says that purchase orders for service providers in the city of Tshwane are before services are rendered. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
So, 11:30 here on the Daily Discourse. How do you feel about what you've just heard? If you are a City of Johannesburg resident, maybe you're not. Maybe you're living in another part of the country where the municipality or other local officials are trying to get you to participate in a process, a complex process, to be able to install your solar or your wind energy or whatever renewable energy you want to install. And there's one question that I also have not explored. Perhaps one of you can help me with this if you've had this kind of installation done. Solar installation has traditionally been a very, very expensive exercise, and it's always a grudge purchase. And, people who install it, who have to put that money down, they often have to save for a long time, or they're taking a lump sum from something else that they had planned for in order to be able to afford this so they can keep going with their businesses and that kind of thing from home, or their small businesses, etc. But I want to ask you, are there systems that the banks, for example, and other lenders now have in place where if you want to install a solar system, you go to them, you apply for finance, and it makes it more affordable for you to be able to purchase all the equipment that is required for you to enjoy the benefits of clean energy like solar. The other question is, I've heard of companies that are renting solar or leasing solar systems so that you don't actually have to buy the equipment. You can simply rent it, so to speak, and you pay a certain amount every month in order to be able to do that. Have any of you used that system, and has that worked for you? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your experiences and what efforts you've made to come off the grid and why you've done it. I mean, on the face of it, the reasons seem fairly clear, that you wanted to be able to go on with life, with power, uninterrupted in terms of work and living. But it's often that turning point, something happens that reminds you that you actually refuse to do this anymore. You're done with the power cuts and that kind of thing. But I can't help worrying about the people who work for Eskom as well. In that previous conversation we had with the energy analyst, Mohammed Mahdi, in which he told us, in which he confirmed to us that Eskom is producing a lot more power than consumers need right now. Remember when we were so desperate? We were desperate for our lights to remain on, and there just wasn't enough power for the rest of us. And so many South Africans went off and just made a plan. Right? They invested in wind energy, or they invested in solar energy, or they invested in inverters, whatever it was. People made a plan because Eskom couldn't do what it was meant to do, what it was built to do. And now that people have made a plan, Eskom is going to find itself in a situation where it's got all this debt, it's got all this expensive infrastructure that it has built and accumulated over the years, it's got staff who are dependent on it for a living, and it's not able to sell its product at the rate it used to before. The demand for its product has dropped. What happens to all those jobs? Is Eskom now going to think about how it evolves as an entity? Right? Does it move into the area of clean energy? Does it start looking at renewables and providing those for the country and becoming a service provider in that regard? Does it train its staff? Are there opportunities there for it to start looking at the work it's done in a different way as we move deeper into the 21st century? I'd like to hear from you on that. I'm sure many of you have some interesting comments to make on that. We are going to, in a moment, find out what's happened at the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria today, but I want to take a quick call from Sam in Durban on the death penalty. Sam, good morning to you. Your thoughts on this, please?
Hi, Joanne. Thank you. I think, you know what, we have to relook at the Constitution, especially in terms of the death penalty, because at the moment South Africa is free for all. I will always say it. We got no crime. Remove the foreigners, and we have zero crime in South Africa. Because whether the foreigner is causing, doing crime, or they're part of crime, like the incident that happened in Emmarentia last week. or during the weekend. So I think we have to re-look at it. Botswana's got it, the death penalty. I think even Namibia's got it. India has got it. All the Arab countries have got it. You can leave your shopping baskets outside, your bags outside when you go shopping. You know, Dubai, you can leave whatever on the table in the food court, walk away and come back, your stuff is still there. But we're talking about murder, rape, etc. At the moment, we have no hindrance in terms of crime in this country. If I want to kill someone, I can kill them. I know I'm going to do time, but who put me up to it? I can just zip this for the next 20 years and my family is taken care of. That's the way it's happening in this country at the moment.
So you're raising a couple of issues there, Sam, maybe more than a couple of issues there. Firstly, I mean, your issue about the death penalty and comparing the laws in other countries to ours, it's a little different, right? We have a constitution that's quite different to the other countries. And in the Arab countries, for example, you can have your hands chopped off if you are found guilty of theft, for example. So, I mean, their laws, their constitutions are formulated in very different ways. How do you imagine our constitution gelling with the death penalty when it is written the way it is? And do you foresee that our lawmakers will suddenly veer towards that when the bulk of the Constitution, which is based on the Bill of Rights, is leaning towards other forms of punishment, shall we say, rather than the death penalty itself? Secondly, the issue of foreigners. I mean, I don't know how you come to the conclusion that foreigners are the only people who commit crimes in this country. South Africans do commit crimes. We commit crimes all the time. We are found guilty of them and we go to jail. So we can't make a sweeping statement like that, but there are definitely foreigners involved in crimes who do commit crimes in our country. My question to our other listeners, and thank you for raising these issues, Sam, is how we foresee ourselves as a democracy changing the constitution in what is actually a very drastic way, right? Remember, the apartheid government had the death penalty. And it based its entire constitution on a law that was a crime against humanity. So this is why we have such a different constitution in this country, and post-democracy, we think differently about the right to life, about how people ought to be punished in this country for crimes that they commit. But I think what is going to be a huge stumbling block in this country is that it is a very traumatized country. Right? You've got people living in very difficult circumstances. You've got the complication of poverty. You've got a history of violence that stretches back a few hundred years. Unless these problems are solved, will we not continue to be a society that keeps creating the people who do commit murders and other forms of crime in this country? I see that we are getting more callers on the line now, but let me also listen to your voice notes at this hour. One of you is saying that Nhlanhla Nkwanazi would have been the right man for the position of acting police commissioner.
Good day, SAfm listeners. The president was supposed to appoint General Mkwanazi. The man did act as acting commissioner of police before, I think under Zuma. He's got all the qualifications. Why look around, bring us Cassius to be acting minister of police, to be acting commissioners? Just an advice in Cape Town.
Hello, Joanne. Yes, I agree with Dr. Berger. If you check carefully the track record of Ramaphosa, he's that kind of a person who will do something just to appease or to impress people without the deep knowledge of what he's doing. He's just that kind of a person. Even when he goes outside the country, he goes there just to be applauded by other people. And back home, things are falling apart. I think he's the most useless person. You know what? Even Zuma, who didn't go to school that much, was 100 times better than this guy. Thank you.
Good morning. You know, my worry and my concern is that, I could be wrong, but I stand to be corrected, is that if the current acting police commissioner is revered highly of being a good financial manager. Where was she when all these irregularities occurred? Or maybe there's something I'm not getting. She has discovered those irregularities and highlighted them, or told the police commissioner, and then the police commissioner ignored it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those voice notes. Thanks for keeping them short. So in answer to that last question, she actually was in the finance department at the SAPS, and she did flag the Cat Matlala contract as a problem. And the police commissioner, Fani Masimola, who's now been put on suspension, did not actually respond as quickly as he should have. So she was the one who flagged the problem. All right, 11:41 here on the Daily Discourse, and we're talking about the Madlanga Commission for the moment. It's continuing in Pretoria. Just looking at the SABC News feed right now, we've got Advocate Matthew Chaskelson. He's the evidence leader at the moment, and top cop Umashi Dlamini is accused of tender rigging. He is on the stand at the moment. So he is the suspended Tshwane Metro Police Deputy Chief, and he has returned there today, and he's tabled fresh documents before the Commission, including proof that Gubis delivered services, a tender bid register, and emails detailing payment disputes as recently as the 26th of February 2026. He outlined that his division is responsible for contract management, service level agreements, and ensuring proper tender processes are followed. Crucially, Dlamini has pushed back on earlier claims, insisting that purchase orders in Tshwane are issued upfront before any work begins, with invoices later matched to those purchase orders, even for ad hoc security. So his testimony continues on the stand at the Madlanga Commission as we speak.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk.
Yeah, we're taking your calls on our studio line. Jimmy from Khobokwane is on the line to us. Hi there, Jimmy. You also want to talk about the death penalty.
Yes, how are you, madam?
I'm so well, thanks. Go ahead.
Good. I think they've lied to us when they say that we've got the best constitution in the world. This constitution has loopholes, and I strongly believe that need to be reviewed, especially when it comes to the issue of death penalty. We need to apply an eye for an eye. Let's look at Section 11, for instance. It says everyone has the right to life, right? Now, if someone take your life, I'll give you a practical example with that lady who was shot, gunned down at the parking space in a municipality for exposing corruption. The picture of that person, they're flying everywhere in the social media. Now, you're going to arrest that particular person who contravened the constitution by taking someone's life. Now the question is, why can't we take his life too? Because we don't have to apply a blanket approach. We need to apply it on specific case, deal with it according to particular issues. If you kill a person, be killed. Why must we arrest you, take you to prison, feed you on the taxpayers' money? You get what I'm saying? I think we need to approach it in that angle. If you killed a particular individual, be killed. It's an eye for an eye. It becomes fair to everyone. Even the parents of that particular child, they won't have any problem because the person who killed their child is also dead. I think in that way, we're going to solve a lot of issues in this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that, Jimmy. And yeah, of course, I mean, people are entitled to their opinion. It's exactly the clause that that Jimmy spoke about that is the reason we don't have the death penalty. It's the right to life for everyone, including people who commit crimes in the country, and that's what makes it so difficult. It will make it extremely difficult to essentially reconcile it with other parts of the Constitution. And so a lot of the Constitution would have to change if we instituted any kind of corporal punishment and introduced the death penalty. So that would be that would be an interesting point there. The other thing is that I didn't mention earlier in regard to the first caller on the death penalty. Research has been done about the death penalty, right, and about its effectiveness. And the research that has been done shows that it actually doesn't deter crime. It doesn't deter criminals who want to commit crimes like murder, capital crimes, right? And if that's the case, if it's not going to stop people from committing murder, is it worth introducing? My question remains as well about a society that produces people who commit capital crimes and extremely serious crimes, violent crimes. If we continue producing individuals of this nature, and they may be people who've been produced by by systems that mitigate against them. Someone who is born perhaps, and these are just some of the examples, right? There are multiple elements that go into making a murderer. But I'm just thinking about the issue of someone being born into a society with great disadvantage, right? So you're born into poverty. You grow up in an area where violence is the norm, and it's a lexicon that you learn when you are young. And you become so schooled in the language of violence and the resulting actions and the resulting conduct that you can't think of seeing the world in any other way. And it's the way you begin to move through the world. You commit violence at home. You commit violence in the company of your friends. You commit violence in public places. There is no opportunity for you to gain employment. There is no opportunity for you to study because it's hard to access education in this country. It's hard to access employment. And so this violence, which has pervaded your entire life, becomes your way of dealing with all sorts of problems. And you resort to violence that results in the death of someone else. Is that a problem partially with the society that spawned you? Is there a problem with the conditions that were created that led to human beings who've grown up in these circumstances and have only known violence as a way of dealing with these crimes? And believe me, my hearts go out to everybody who is deeply affected by crime, because in every part of the country, people have got these stories. They've either been robbed, they've been raped, they've been the victims of gender-based violence, they've suffered murders in their family. And we can't live in a country where we can only survive, let's be honest, in a country where crime rates are so high. We've developed coping mechanisms as South Africans, but we don't thrive in an environment where we're not safe. We're afraid all the time. We take precautions. We monitor our own behavior and police ourselves to make sure that we are not victims of crime, while criminals are not policed the way they ought to be, right? That's another factor in all of this. But if we are this kind of society that produces generations of criminals, as it seems we're doing, what are we going to do to stop that, to stop producing people who embrace a life of crime later on in life? And does part of the solution not lie with actually examining our society and changing the social conditions under which we raise children who become violent adults who commit these crimes? I'd like to hear from you on that as well. Let's take a short break.
Investing shouldn't feel risky. It should give you security and good returns. Earn up to 7.25% interest per annum with an Absa Cash Invest Tracker for an investment of 100,000 rands or more. Your capital is guaranteed with immediate access to your funds. That's minimum risk, maximum benefit. Absa Private Banking customers can invest from just R1. Open via the Absa Banking app, a branch, a private banker, or 0860 111 515. Your story matters. Absa is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Hi, I'm Zycard. Catch me every Saturday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Spotlight as we bring you blow-by-blow sporting action, news. That's Spotlight every Saturday. You don't want to miss it.
Top Billing brings you the very best in lifestyle, luxury and inspiration. From breathtaking homes and dream destinations to exclusive access to the people shaping culture and success. This is where style meets substance and every story shines. Tune into the new season of Top Billing on S3, Thursdays at 7 p.m. starting from the 30th of April. Repeats Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC 1. You can also stream Top Billing live on SABC Plus, available on all app stores and on your smart TV. Top Billing, the best of the good life.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
Yes, we're taking those calls indeed. Miles Budu is wanting to talk to us about the death penalty. Miles, good morning to you. Your take on this, please.
Good day, Joanne.
Hi.
Look, I'm a prisoners' rights activist in good standing. I'm a veteran. I'm a fellow South African that have been trying to do the right thing all along. But I need to say, for as long as we remain in denialism, that we need to get the majority of fellow South Africans decriminalized, decolonized, de-imperialized, and destigmatized. The crime problem will never come to a level where we can manage it. Now, the reason why we remain criminalized, we remain stigmatized, imperialized, and colonized, we all know, we were victims of a system that was declared a crime against humanity. And it is that system that criminalized us. We need a vaccine to get the majority of us decriminalized. And the vaccine can be only a possibility when those who benefited from a system that criminalized us invest in getting that vaccine to get us out of that mindset. You can bring back the death penalty, you can put them in front of a firing squad, you can hang them, but for as long as the mind remains criminalized, colonized, stigmatized, imperialized, we are going absolutely nowhere.
Miles, thank you so much for your call. Do you agree with Miles Budu there? Do you agree that because we are products of the society in which we have been living, and we are living with this for generations, let's be quite honest, do you agree with Miles that unless we sort that out and decolonize the kind of victimization that we've experienced over the centuries, that we're never going to solve this problem of eradicating violence and eradicating crime as a consequence of that? I was also thinking about the issue of the kind of mistakes that happen in the court system. We've got an adversarial system, right? That adversarial system doesn't always work. It depends often on the kind of lawyer you get or the lawyer you can afford. In a case where someone has been wrongfully convicted, because it has happened, right? And years later, the truth comes out. What happens when you have applied the death penalty in that case? There's no turning back time. John Malumelele in Malumelele, what are your thoughts on this?
Hi.
Hi there, John.
Yes, I'm coming in the angle of punishment.
Yes.
Not in the angle of deterring somebody.
All right.
Anyone who does something which is prohibited by law must get the punishment that he or she deserves.
Correct.
Not to deter any other person, but to punish the person in question. So the Constitution, which is leaving us unprotected wherever we are, whether we are in the streets, at home, we are vulnerable to killings. I'm telling you that the day in which your next of kin, like myself, my son, has been killed, it is the day in which you'll understand that the killer must be killed. Unless it was in a self-defense or private defense, it is understandable. But now you kill somebody, an innocent somebody, the killer is said to be, he has got the right to life, he has taken the life of somebody. He must be also killed, not to deter, but to get the punishment that he deserves. And the Constitution have to be reviewed. If I was the president myself, I ought to have done that long time ago, so that everyone could be secured, irrespective of whether it deters or not, But the fact is, the killer has got the punishment that he or she deserves. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, John, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us and your personal story of the loss of your son. I'm really sorry for your loss. And I think until you have lived through something like that, you can't explain the anger that parents feel, that family members feel when they've lost someone close to them. I was reading about the murder of that entire family that was taken to Melmoth. I think they're from the sort of Tongaat, the North Coast area, taken to Melmoth and killed there en masse. And it's believed that the 20-year-old daughter was raped twice in that process. A lot of people on social media were calling for the death penalty there. But it's so you can understand people's anger. I think when people feel helpless, this is what they call for. But they feel helpless, not because the Constitution doesn't leave us unprotected, or not because the Constitution leaves us unprotected, but because policing leaves us unprotected. So the Constitution can deal with all these ideas, but actually people have got to implement it. We've got to have systems and personnel who can implement it. And as long as we have a police service that cannot protect us, and a justice system that cannot apply laws the way they ought to in this country, we're going to have a constant problem with crime in this country. Bongani in East London is with us. Bongani, your thoughts on this, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
Yes. So I will be very brief. So I am of the opinion that we do need to introduce death penalty in South Africa. Of course, that would have to be case by case, not as a blanket approach to say anyone that kills must be, his or her life must be also terminated. Because I do know, and I agree with you when you said there are some people who are born in certain conditions that makes them to behave in a certain way. I totally agree. For example, if you look at Khayelitsha has, right now as I'm speaking, there is a culture there of gangsterism that recruits young boys. And the way it's done is that they are recruited, and the way to cement them into that gang is that they must do something. They must do something extreme. They must kill. So you do understand that in such cases, you can't take those children and say they must be, terminated. But there are cases in South Africa. And for me, it's not just about the fact that someone who is killed must be killed also. But it's the deterrence that will be introduced in people's conscience. When a person knows that if I kill my wife, or if I kill my husband, or if I kill my children, or if I kill this person, if I do this or if I do that, there is a possibility that I might face a death penalty. I think that alone would make many people, take a different decision. The criminals, just before I go, criminals in South Africa are acting with utter impunity. They don't care who says what, because they know even if you arrest them, it might be that they get a good lawyer and someone gets some type of a brown envelope, and that criminal is released.
Yes. To commit more crimes often.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And the argument that says, according to the Constitution, a person has a right to life. My question is, if you take someone else's life, did you not lose your own rights to life because you've taken somebody else's life? So I think we do need to look into it, not as a blanket approach, case by case. Look at the cases and deal with them individually. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And of course, we brought up this issue of constitutional review. It is something that we should regularly be doing. We should be communicating with Parliament, writing to them, giving cogent reasons for why we believe a certain law needs adjusting. And we have that right as people living in a democracy to do that. So this brings us to the end of our show. Thank you so much for joining us over the course of today. And we've had some wonderful discussions. I know idea we'd be talking about the death penalty, for example. But I love it that you feel the freedom to be able to pick up the phone and speak about what's on your mind. I will not be with you on Monday. I'm going to have the public holiday off, but I will join you again on Tuesday, and we will pick up all our conversations from there. Thank you so much for joining us and for weighing in on all the big issues of the day. Great to be with you once again, and we will do it all again on Tuesday. Have a very safe and enjoyable long weekend, and do take care, and we'll see you on the other side of this. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide.
O'clock on Friday, the 24th of April, 2026. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here at SAfm, leading conversation. I'm Sakina Kamando. Coming up in the next hour, the defense lawyers of Mr. Rutla and Mkwanazi have respectively questioned the availability of witnesses or a witness that will be intimidated by their clients should they be granted bail.
So why are the police contradicting themselves? Why? Because they're dreaming up a basis to oppose bail. And we're looking for a well-grounded apprehension, which is absent. And it's speculative.
And the suspended Tshwane Metro Police Deputy Chief Umashi Dlamini is back in the
indicate to say I might not be privy to Sergeant Kosi's discussions with the CFO. He came initially, I gave him. He wrote again on the 18th and up until he explained to me. And I never went back to him. I think perhaps I was caught up or busy with other things. Up until he comes again back to me on the 25th to say, I requested you to check for me. Could you kindly do so? I need that, urgently so.
Well, we'll get to the 25 quite soon, but before we do, why would you understand people who had been helped by Nico as preferred people? Because his message to you is the list of preferred people for demolition. What makes the people who have been assisted by Nico preferred?
I took it maybe because he assisted Peggy, I don't know.
No, it doesn't make sense, Deputy Chief, your answer. The question is, the message says, the message from Sergeant Kosi is list of preferred people. Why would you understand that to mean people who have been assisted by Nico? It's a very specific choice of words.
Yes.
The list of preferred people. He doesn't say in this message the list of people assisted by Nico. He said prefer, and it does have a specific meaning. Why would you understand this to mean people assisted by Nico?
Preferred people, I'll explain it when we come to the 25, because he said he needed people who Nico assisted in terms of compliance, that their bidders, Nico could see to say these comply, that he preferred to say they meet the requirements.
No, it's the 18th of March before you get to the 25th.
Yes.
We are at the 18th of March. On the 18th of March, why did you understand this to mean people who have been assisted by Nico?
As preferred people.
Why do you understand Sergeant Ngosi saying preferred people? Why do you understand that to mean people assisted by Nico on the 18th of March?
I understood it as people who meet the compliance standard of the tender as preferred people.
Yeah, no, can you just explain it again? Maybe it's me, it's not you.
I'm saying I understood it as people who meet all the requirements as preferred.
You see, that's different from saying people assisted by NICO. If all he was asking was, give me the names of the people that have been assisted by NICO, that's a different inquiry from give me the list of people who have met the requirements.
I don't know why he wrote it this way, but he said it was people who are preferred in terms of meeting the requirement.
No, it's not. My question is not about why he wrote it this way. It is, and that's a question of Mr. Chaskalson, is why did you understand it the way you say you understood it, or the way you say it means, which is he wanted to know who has been assisted by NICO when the message says list of preferred people for demolition. You tell us you understood it, or he was saying to you, give me the list of people assisted by NICO. That's your first answer. And the question is, but how do you understand this message to mean that?
Yes, it's preferred commissioner in terms of meeting the requirement, those that he preferred.
Okay. No, that answer doesn't make sense, sorry.
Deputy Chief, so people here meant bidders, correct?
Yes.
There's technical language that is used in the procurement industry. Is it not so that ordinarily, and with the technical language in mind, that preferred, you've said people means bidders, so is it not so that preferred bidders would ordinarily mean bidders who are preferred to get the award? Ordinarily, please forget about what the actual inquiry was about. Ordinarily, preferred bidders would mean bidders that are preferred for the award. Ordinarily, is that not so?
Ordinarily, yes, Commissioner.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Dlamini, at this stage in March, the bid process was at evaluation stage, correct?
Correct, Commissioner.
The submission happened in September of the previous year because the closing date was October the 2nd.
Correct, Commissioner.
Did you not find it odd that the discussion about whether from NICO's perspective the bids comply did not happen in October, but it is happening in March of the following year when it is Tshwane that is evaluating the bids?
Much as I'm saying, Commissioner, that's what he requested from me to verify, to check with NICO. And my
question to you is, did you not find it odd that this discussion, because if somebody wanted you to verify with NICO, they would ask you that in October of the previous year when NICO was working on the submissions. Why is he asking you to check with NICO when the bids are no longer with NICO, but they are with TMPD for evaluation?
It was odd, Commissioner. Much as I'm saying, I'll show the Commission to say, I never had interest in this. And I'll take you through the steps to say, I never responded to Sergeant Gosi.
So you accept that it was odd that you were being asked about a list of preferred people while TMPD was evaluating the same bids?
Correct, Commissioner.
A historical fact, correct? This is an inquiry that relates to something historical that happened in October.
It's closed in October.
In fact, it relates to even before, because it would have related to a period prior to the submission of the bids. So quite historical.
Yes.
It would have served no purpose. So it was an inquiry that was not taking anybody anywhere.
Correct.
Useless information.
Correct, Commissioner.
That did not.
Much as a Commissioner, you'll take into account that when he came back again on the 25th to me, I sent him a first message because I'm saying, is looking for something that, I mean, he came for the first time, I gave him those names. He comes again, then I send him the first message that I explained to say, these things I thought, I mean, they are put to rest. This is what Nico told me.
And you did not ask him, but to what end? This, as I say, is historical. This, as I say, is useless information. This, as I say, this is information that would have assisted nobody.
Yes.
And you don't ask him, but this inquiry, to what end? You don't ask him that.
I did not go to that an extent.
Why not? Why not?
I sent him a
Why not? Why not? Please don't tell me what you sent him. Why not?
I felt I don't have any business to do, Commissioner, with this. I don't have any interest.
Yes, Mr. Shoskelson.
So all you did is you told him, again, Nico only helped Ngapashaya and El Shaddai.
Initially, he demanded, I mean, those two. He came back again to say he needs additional names, SC. Much as I'm saying, if I can take you, I mean, through the sequence of events.
No, wait. Before you go forward, you say he demanded those two names. Who demanded those two names?
Captain
Sergeant
Ngozi.
So he demanded what in relation to those two names?
To say, I must confirm if Nico can give him the two names for land invasion. And I forwarded those names to him.
So, are we talking about the 11th of March or the 9th of March or the 18th of March?
We're talking about the 9th of March.
So he demanded the two names for land invasion. How did you understand that demand?
Much as I'm saying, he said I must check with Nico to give him two names that he have assisted in terms of the land invasion.
So the first question that he gets is, give me two names from Nico of companies he has assisted for land invasion.
Yes.
Now he knows that Ngapashaya has been assisted by Nico because you have told him,
yes,
use Nico to help your brother because I can't help your brother.
Yes.
So it's not much use to him to be told by you that Nico has helped Ngapashaya. He already knows that.
Yes.
So when you say he wanted the names of two companies that have been assisted by Nico, why would he be interested in Ngapashaya in that context? He knows that Nico's helped Ngapashaya.
Yes.
But so why would he ask you to confirm that which all three of you, Nico and Sergeant Nkosi, clearly know and have known for the last 6 months, that Ngapashaya was helped by Nico in preparing the bid?
Yes, he wanted two Ngapashaya and the other name.
So he was. So the demand was, I want to know which one other company apart from Ngapashaya was helped by Nico.
He wanted two names, yes.
Yeah,
two names, Ngapashaya and the other.
Yes, but he didn't want two names because he already knew one of those names. He knew that Ngapashaya had been helped. You knew that Ngapashaya had been helped. Becky knew that Ngapashaya had been helped. All three of you knew that Nico had helped Ngapashaya.
That's correct.
So he wouldn't be asking you to confirm that Nico had helped Ngapashaya.
That's what he looked for, SC, from me.
But, sorry, Deputy Chief, it just doesn't make sense at all, because he wouldn't ask you a question. Who was helped by Nico? Was Ngapashaya helped by Nico? When He knew Ngapashe was helped by Nico. You knew that Ngapashe was helped by Nico. You knew that he knew that Ngapashe was helped by Nico. How could he be asking you to confirm that Ngapashe was helped by Nico? You both knew that that was the case.
That's what he requested, SC, and much as I forwarded him those two names.
That's not the question, Deputy Chief. Why would he ask this when he knew that all the role players knew that Ngapeshe had been assisted by Nico? Why? The question is why. Can you please answer the question now?
I indicate, Commissioner, to say, he asked me to say, give me two names, being Ngapeshe and the other name that Nico assisted.
That's still not answering the why. Please, Deputy Chief.
I'm not sure, Commissioner.
That's not about what he asked for. It's about why he would have asked about Ngapeshe having been assisted by Nico when all the role players, including you, knew that he had been assisted, including Sergeant Kosi, including you.
He knew, Commissioner, yes, I confirm he knew about
the question is
Ngapeshe.
why. The question is why. Why would the inquiry still have been made? Please.
He wanted the second name, Commissioner.
Mr. Shaselson?
So you're now saying that what he was asking for was essentially who is the second company that that Nico helped?
Correct.
We all know he helped Ngapeshe. Who's the second company?
Correct, yes.
And when he asks you on the 18th, the list of preferred people for demolition, what is he asking then?
Much as I indicate to you to say, I send him this, he comes again on the 18th to say the list of preferred people for demolition.
And what did you tell him? Because you explained, well, first, what did you understand by that request? What was he asking?
To say he needed a list of preferred bidders for land invasion who have tendered.
So now he wanted a list of preferred bidders?
Yes.
In other words, the bidders who have made it through a stage of evaluation to the point at which they designated preferred bidders?
Yes, bidders who have tendered and so forth.
Yes, but preferred bidders are different from general bidders. You know, you get a list of bidders on the tender register. Preferred bidders are bidders who have been considered by the BEC and the BAC, and they are the ones who are essentially shortlisted for award.
In this instance, preferred bidders for him were those that were assisted by Nico.
But why would assistance from Nico qualify you as a preferred bidder?
I can't tell that one, Commissioner, why he looked for them.
And how did you know that when he said the list of preferred bidders or the list of preferred people, you understood that what he meant was people helped by Nico?
Correct.
Well, how did you understand, or how did you know that was what he meant?
I understood it as preferred people who assisted by Nico in terms of compliance of their tender document.
But how? Why? I mean, it doesn't say, Morning General, can you give me a list of people who Nico assisted in TMPD 1? It says, Morning General, the list of preferred people for demolition.
That's correct, SC.
So how did you know that what he actually meant was the list of people Nico helped?
He called me, SC, and explained to me.
And what? And then you called him back and you spoke to him. We see at 8:37 a.m. on page 433.
Yes, he called first, and then he called, and then I called him back.
And did you then tell him it's Ngapashe and El Shaddai?
I told him, then he said I must also check with Nico the other bidders that he have assisted.
You see, that doesn't tally with the external evidence, because you'll recall this whole exchange with you seems to start with a call from the CFO to Sergeant Nkosi before Sergeant Nkosi sends that text saying the list of preferred bidders. And where it ends is on page 143, when after your last call with Sergeant Nkosi, which was at 8:37, at the foot of page 152, not on 153, so it's 152. At the foot of 152, at what is 8:50, so it's after your last call, Sergeant Nkosi WhatsApps back to the CFO, Ngapashe Security Services and El Shaddai Security Services. So he's not waiting for anything further from you. He is telling the CFO, Ngapashe and El Shaddai. Now, if, as you say, you were going to go back to Nico and you told the sergeant that when you ask for a list of preferred bidders, I understand that you're asking who Nico helped. I've already told you it's Ngapashe and El Shaddai. You now say I must check if there's anybody else. I have to go back to Nico. I will come back to you. If you had said that to Sergeant Nkosi, why would he then, almost immediately after your call, WhatsApp the CFO with the two names of Ngapashe and El Shaddai?
I can't tell SC, but much as I said to him, I'll have to check with Nico because I don't have any information with me.
You see, as between Sergeant Nkosi and the CFO, they understood that this exchange had now been resolved, because you see, after Ngapashe and El Shaddai, at the foot of 152, at the top of 153, the CFO writes back, "Thanks, my bro," and Sergeant Nkosi sends him a thank you emoji. All of this is still happening before 9 o'clock in the morning on the 18th of March. But your evidence is that Sergeant Nkosi actually had asked you, who else, apart from Ngapashe and El Shaddai, did Nico help? And you had told him, I need to speak to Nico before I can answer that, because last time he told me El Shaddai and Ngapashe, and I don't understand there to be anybody else. But I'll check with him. That's your version.
That's correct.
Now you can tell me, I think you're going to take me to, well, I think you're going to take me to the 25th and the mandate that was given to Victor by Nico. But before, there's something else that happens before that. So can you just, we'll get there, but can you just wait, because I want to do it in the sequence. Because what we see on page 434 on the 21st, can you go to 434?
Yes.
In chat number 3, Sergeant Nkosi forwards you a message that says, "Good morning, I had a meeting with Action SA and EFF yesterday. Telling me to submit 5 is an insult and didn't sit well with me." Now, how did you understand that message?
He then called me and explained the message, what is it all about, because I did not understand who had a meeting with Action SA and EFF in this regard.
And what did he explain?
He told me that is a message that was sent to him from the CFO. I mean, I think he got it from the deputy mayor or something like that.
So who apparently had the meeting with Action SA and EFF?
I'm not sure who had the meeting.
But who did Sergeant Nkosi tell you
I just
had
asked
the
him
meeting?
where does the message emanate from and what is it in conjunction with.
And he told you that it came from the CFO, and he mentioned the deputy mayor.
Yes.
But did he say, who had had the meeting with the EFF and Action SA?
He never explained that to me.
But the purpose of your call was to get clarity. What's this message about? Surely you'd have asked them who's meeting with Action SA and EFF.
He called me. He just said he wanted to show me that things are happening.
And did he explain that the things that were happening around TMPD 1?
That's exactly what he said.
And so somebody was meeting with Action SA and EFF, he was telling you, and that somebody had been told to submit 5 bidders and thought that was an insult.
Yes, that's what the message indicates.
And what was your response?
I just said it means then there's high contestation.
Sorry?
I said it seems there's high contestation.
High conversation?
High contestation, perhaps in the political sphere or something.
Have you encountered, political sphere interference in tenders before in your time at Tshwane?
I haven't. I took a decision long ago not to engage with politicians for personal reasons. I don't talk to politicians.
But have you been aware of political sphere interference in tenders previously, even if you haven't been involved in it?
No, never.
So this was the first time in your experience that you'd encountered what seemed to be an attempt at political interference in the award of a tender?
The message that he showed me, I said there's high contestation. The thing is that I avoid politicians for personal reasons, as I indicated. I have a history in politics, so I avoid them.
The high contestation that you referred to, you mean for the tender?
Yes.
To do with the tender?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's contestation by political parties who want to influence the award of the tender.
I took it like that.
Did Sergeant Nkosi not mention to you that this message had been sent to the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Modise?
He never explained that to me.
And your response was what? Just you don't want to be involved in this?
Yes. Stay far from politics.
You see, if we look at the series of phone calls around this message, it starts on page 154, file 3.
File 3.
And you'll see at the top of page 154 is the message that we've just been looking at. It gets forwarded by the CFO to Sergeant Nkosi. Then, and that's at 11:07 in the morning, you've got to add 2 hours. Then at 11:08, there is a call from the CFO to Sergeant Nkosi. And we've checked that that call lasted 9 minutes. So that takes us to 11:17, which is exactly the time that Sergeant Nkosi WhatsApps you the call, WhatsApps you the message at page 434. And then straight after sending you the message, he calls you at 11:17. Then if we go back to page 154, we see that he sent you the call at 11:17. He's made you a call at 11:17. At 11:18:26, the CFO calls him. At 11:19:51, he calls back. At 11:20, he calls back. At 11:20, he calls back again. At 11:21, the CFO calls him. That's at 11:21. We go back to your exchanges at page 434, and we see at 11:22, in chat number 5, there's another call between you and Sergeant Nkosi. So what we see is around this particular chat, a series of calls between the CFO and Sergeant Nkosi, and a series of calls between yourself and Sergeant Nkosi, and they're all interspersed. But you're saying you just made clear to Sergeant Nkosi that you wanted nothing to do with political interference.
That's correct, SC.
And in those later calls, what was going on?
I indicated that we speak frequently. I might not recall what is it that he might have been calling me for. I mean, sometimes he'll call me with regard to issues regarding either my son or whatever the case it might be. So we speak frequently. It might be either a coincidence, but when I speak to him, it's on many aspects that we speak about.
You see, let's go to the third exchange, which is, I think, the one you wanted to take me to, which is the 25th of March, page 439. Now, maybe before we get to 439, we should get to 436. Because what we see in 436 is that on the 20, sorry, I've just lost my, if you look at chat number 2 on file 4 at 111, Sergeant Nkosi at 1:11 p.m. sends you a screenshot of a conversation that he's been having with the CFO. And you'll find that screenshot at page 509. So if you go to 509. 509. And you'll see there no, I apologize. I apologize. We've got the wrong screenshot here. We don't have the correct screenshot. I won't go down that road. That screenshot was sent the day before. We haven't got the right one. But if you we don't have the right document available, but what I want to ask you is that the evidence of the CFO and Sergeant Nkosi was that on 25 March, the CFO had asked for a meeting with you and the CFO and Sergeant Nkosi were due to meet. CFO says it was due to discuss, it was about discussing issues relating to the invoicing of Gubis. Do you recall having a face-to-face meeting with the CFO and Sergeant Nkosi in relation to the invoicing of Gubis?
I never turned up for the meeting because I was going for a training run, so I could not honor the meeting.
So you recall the meeting request, as it were, but you couldn't honor it?
That's correct.
Then let's go down to page 439. And there you send Sergeant Nkosi a message in chat number 5 that says, Captain, I mandate to Victor Piwe Yona. So what was that message about?
As much as I'm saying, let me then explain this to say if you go from, the matters where they've started, as you have been indicating, when I gave Sergeant Nkosi, requested those two names when I gave him on the 9th. You'll realize that, I gave him the names as it was said, these are my bidders or my companies. He comes again, on the 18th with that message, Morning General, the list of preferred people for demolition. And we spoke on the phone, he explained to me, and I said I'll check with Nico. I never went back to him, I think after 9 days or so in that regard. He speaks again to say, I'm still waiting, we spoke on this, and you haven't given me any feedback in that regard. That was the 18th when he sent me that preferred list for bidders. On the 25th of March, it comes again, this matter, then I check with Nico. Nico sent me the list of bidders and say, this is what was given to Victor. Then I send it to Sergeant Nkosi and say, but this is what Nico told me to say, this was given to Victor, the company, so I'm not sure why are you looking for other bidders and so forth.
So Nico said that this was a list of companies that he gave to Victor.
That's what he said.
When did he give this list to Victor? Did he explain?
No, I never asked him that.
And who is Victor?
Victor, I knew Victor as the person who works at supply chain.
Is it Victor Khopa?
I think so.
And was he chairing the BEC on this bid?
I'm not sure about it.
Well, we have had evidence elsewhere that Victor Gopa was the chair of the BEC on this bid.
Okay.
So this was a list that Nico said he gave to Victor, who we know to be the chair of the BEC.
That's correct.
And it was in relation to TMPD1.
Correct.
And when did Victor tell you that this was the list he'd given to Victor?
I was not told by Victor, I'm told by
So
Nico.
sorry, but Nico, when did Nico tell you that this is the list he'd given
On
to
the
Victor?
25th when he sent me this list.
And if we go back to your message to Sergeant Nkosi on page 439, we see that when you send that list of companies, your covering message says Captain Nai mandate u Victor Apiwe Yona.
Correct.
So what you're telling Sergeant Nkosi is that this list of companies is the mandate that was given to Victor.
That's what Nico told me.
Now, what is a mandate?
I believe when he said this is the mandate, I'm saying Victor, it means he must work on those companies.
So Victor must work on those companies.
Correct.
So Victor must give preference to those companies in the procurement process.
That's correct.
So when we're talking about preferred bidders, we're now talking about, when we previously talked about preferred bidders, we're now dealing with a situation where there is a request for preferred bidders status for these 7 companies.
That's correct.
And what did you say to Nico when he told you this is the mandate that I've given to Victor?
As much as I send it to Sergeant Nkosi to say he's looking for something while I'm being told to say already Victor was given a list of preferred bidders.
So you've got some evidence that...
Sorry. Please repeat that. I don't understand you.
I'm saying Nico sends me this list and say these are the preferred bidders that were given to Victor on TMPD 01. So I'm sending it to Sergeant Nkosi to say you are looking for something else. This is what I'm being told.
So Sergeant Nkosi asks you for a list of other companies that Nico has assisted.
Yes.
You give him back a list that Nico tells you he has given to Victor as the mandate for TMPD1.
Yes.
Then,
then he tells me to say, no, check with Nico. I need to send the other names to the CFO. If you can ensure that Nico gives you other bidders that he have prepared in terms of compliance that I need to send to the CFO.
So, sorry, when did he say that?
On the 25th when we spoke.
And when did you speak on the 25th?
I spoke to Nico again, then he sent me a message that I sent to Sergeant Nkosi.
Sorry, I'm just getting the sequence a bit confused. So you're saying that back on the, well, correct me if I'm misunderstanding you, because I don't want to put words in your mouth that are wrong. But you're saying that back on the, I think it was the 18th, Sergeant Nkosi said, give me, when he said the list of preferred bidders for TMPD, for the demolition tender, what he was actually asking for was a list of other bidders that Nico may have assisted, beyond Ngapashe and El Shaddai.
Yes.
And then you speak to Nico on the 25th, and he says, this is the mandate that I gave to Victor.
Correct.
And you understood that to mean that Nico had been communicating with Victor and had told Victor that these 7 companies and we see them on page 525, are the companies that should get the tender.
That's correct.
And so you go back to Sergeant Nkosi.
Correct.
And you say to him, you asked me for the other companies that Nico had been assisting. This is the mandate that Nico gave to Victor of companies who should be given preferred bidder status.
That's correct.
So you knew that Nico was now talking to the chair of the BEC, or to Victor, who you knew to be involved in procurement, and was giving Victor a list of companies who he wanted to be appointed in this case.
I don't know that. I did not know that. And I'm not sure if that's correct or it's false or it's true, but that's what he told me.
Well, Nico had said that he had talked to Victor and he had given Victor a list of 7 companies that should be given preferred bidder status.
That's what he said to me.
And what did you do with that information?
I gave it to Sergeant Nkosi to say, but you are still looking, but this is what was given already.
Now, Victor is a member of your department, is he not?
No.
Victor Khope is not a member of the TMPD?
No. He's not a member of the TMPD.
Is he from Central Procurement?
I understood him to say earlier that he is in supply chain management.
Sorry.
Yes. Just a matter of detail, Mr. Shaskelson. If you've touched on this already, please forgive me, but where did Nico get this list from? Do you know?
I don't know.
Or you may continue, Mr. Shaskelson.
But at any rate, you'd now been told that Nico, who's someone who you deal with.
I dealt with when I'm dealing with issues of, I indicated that I worked with him 97 when I left the army to manage the taxi business and so forth. I worked with him in terms of, ensuring that the permits for vehicles and all those other things.
Well, let me take a step back. Nico, who is the person who you refer bidders to when they want to put in place compliant bids. Nico is the man you refer them to if they ask you to help them assemble compliant bids. You say, I can't do it, but I know someone who can. Nico is that man.
I don't refer bidders to Nico. I only referred Sergeant Nkosi to say, let him help Peggy. I don't refer bidders.
Okay, well, Nico is the person you refer Sergeant Nkosi to.
Correct. Yes.
Nico is now telling you that he has gone to the chair of the BEC and given him a mandate to appoint 7 companies for this bid.
That's what he said, then he sent me the list.
Yes.
I gave it to Sergeant Nkosi.
But Nico is essentially admitting to an attempt to corrupt this procurement process, is he not?
I don't know whether this was true or not. People might claim sometimes.
No, but Nico was saying he gave that list to Victor.
That's what he said.
Now, so he has been party to an attempt on his own version to corrupt the procurement process.
I can't confirm that.
Well, why can't you confirm that? He says, I've gave this list to Victor as the mandate for TMPD1.
I've seen a lot of people who lure people to say they have either connections within the city, they can help them and so forth, just to benefit, of which it's not true.
Yes, but even if it's not true, he is claiming to have been party to an attempt to corrupt the procurement process here.
A claim might not be a reality. People will let people and say, I know this judge, let's go to him, I've spoken to him. We can either arrange your bail and so forth. Sit here. I've arranged. While it's not true, the same thing that other people do, especially with supply chain processes. There's a lot of bogus people who claim sometimes to be having connections, speaking to people while it's not true. So I can't confirm that.
Deputy Chief, assuming that it was true, that is the list or the mandate had indeed been given, would that have amounted to an attempt to corrupt the tender process, assuming it was true?
Assuming it was true, yes, it amounts to that, Commissioner.
Deputy Chief, you must have assumed it is true. Why else would you have forwarded it to Sergeant Nkosi? Because you cannot forward something that you know to be false to Sergeant Nkosi. So you must have believed that it is true, because you said earlier, he gave you a list of preferred bidders. And then you said, but I already have this from Victor, so what you are asking me is already there. So which means you must have believed that you are being told the truth, because you used this very list to respond to what he had asked you earlier.
Commissioner, I asked me to check with Nico. Nico gave me that.
Exactly.
And say, this is what I've given
Exactly.
to Victor. So I assume Sergeant Nkosi must be knowing these things. Why does he keep on looking either for additional people and so forth?
But I'm saying then you must have assumed, I'm not saying you knew, you must have assumed that it is correct what you are being told, that Victor has been given this money.
I assumed as such,
Yes.
Commissioner.
And, sorry, Chair, go ahead.
You said Sergeant Nkosi's inquiry was again about who had been assisted by Nico, correct?
Correct.
Even at this late stage.
Correct.
Now you are given a list in relation to a mandate of preferred bidders now, that is, people who should be preferred for the award of the tender, correct?
Correct, Commissioner.
And then you give that to Sergeant Nkosi, correct?
Correct.
And do you give it to Sergeant Nkosi on the understanding that it was a response to his inquiry?
Correct, to say it will put the matter to rest.
How could that be? How could that be a response to Sergeant Nkosi? Because now this is about preferred bidders. Sergeant Nkosi had made an inquiry about other people who had been assisted by Nico. But you are not giving him that. What you are giving him is a list of preferred bidders. How could that be a response to Sergeant Nkosi's latest inquiry? The two just do not correspond.
I thought it will put his request to rest that because Nico has done that, he might not continue.
How could it put the inquiry to rest? Because it's not answering the question. The question is, who else was assisted by Nico? And what you get is not a response to that, but rather a mandate in relation to preferred bidders. So it cannot put the inquiry to rest because it's not answering that inquiry. So why did you give him something that did not relate to the inquiry, and yet you purported to be doing exactly that? The two do not correspond, as I say.
Commissioner, there are names there, and I take once he sees those names, then he'll be satisfied.
Satisfied by something that does not, on your own understanding, answer his inquiry. How could he be satisfied?
He'll take the same name list that, Nico provide me to say I've given this to
But
Victor.
that list is not about assistance, it's about preferred bidders. So how could he be satisfied?
Commissioner, I took it that he'll be satisfied with that list.
Even though it wasn't answering the inquiry?
Much as he made the follow-up again with me.
Deputy Commissioner, the Nico, who is Nico in the scheme of things?
Nico doesn't work for the city.
Yes, who is he?
He assists people with, filling bids and so forth.
So when he gives you a list which is a mandate, why do you pass it on? If he's just a random person, why do you take that list and pass it on?
Much as I'm saying, Sergeant Kosi requested me to check with him, then he gave me that list.
No, your message says nai mandate Victor apiwe yona. So Victor, you've spoken to Nico. He's told you that he's got a mandate to do with this list.
Yes.
Whether he's telling the truth or not is irrelevant to my question. He tells you, I have a mandate relating to this list. Why do you pass it on to Sergeant Nkosi?
I was giving him information to say he's requesting names, but names have already been given.
No, your message is a mandate. It's a mandate that Victor has been given. That's what Nico tells you. Victor, the chairperson of the BEC, has been given a mandate. And this is the mandate. It's a list. Why do you pass on that list to Sergeant Nkosi as a mandate that you are told by Nico has been given to Victor?
It's because Commissioner, he said he wanted me to get a list from Nico to give it to
Did Sergeant Nkosi say to you, get me the mandate, the list of the mandate that Nico has been given, or that Nico has given to Victor? Is that what Nkosi asked from you? Because your answer makes sense only if Sergeant Nkosi asked you to find out what mandate has Victor been given. Then it makes sense, your answer.
I gave him, Commissioner, much as I forwarded the name list, and also I indicated to say, Nico indicated to say he gave this to Victor as a mandate.
My question is, did Sergeant Nkosi say to you, find out from Nico what mandate has Victor been given? Did Sergeant Nkosi ask you that kind of question?
No, Commissioner.
Okay, so why is your message to Sergeant Nkosi that here's the mandate that Victor has been given, if that's not what Sergeant Nkosi asked you to find out?
I was making him aware with a view that it will put his request to rest.
The request for what?
For another companies, names of companies that he wants.
That he wants for what?
He said he wants to send to the CFO.
So he said to you he wants a list of companies that he wants to send to the CFO.
Yes.
And then you say then to him, here's the list
Yes.
that comes from Nico. Okay, thank you.
Can I, Deputy Chief, I'm making a plea to you because you must assume that we can read, and these WhatsApps are in English, right? And the answers you are giving do not correspond to these WhatsApps. Unless these people were speaking in codes and you were speaking in codes, what you are telling us and what the WhatsApps say are miles apart. So my plea to you is to answer questions truthfully, because I don't think you are doing that at this stage. You are being asked for a list of companies Nico assisted. Instead of giving that list, you give a list of a mandate that is given to Victor. And you are saying that will put the inquiry to rest. How can it put an inquiry to rest when the list you are giving has nothing to do with the request to you? You are asked for a list, listen to this. You are asked for a list of companies Victor assisted, of Nico assisted, correct?
Correct.
But you don't give that list. Instead, you give a list of a mandate given to Victor for a different reason, because you said that mandate was given to Victor so that Victor can work with those companies. But that is a different issue too. Which companies did NICO assist?
Commissioner Kumalo, I'm saying I'm requested a list. There's the list is attached there. I further indicate to say, but this was given to Victor as per NICO, as a mandate. There are name list of companies there.
So I want you to reflect on my plea during the lunch break. And when you come back from lunch, I'm going to ask you to please answer truthfully, because the impression I get sitting here, we can read. You must assume we can read. And what we are reading and what you are telling us are miles apart.
I'm answering truthfully, Commissioner, much as I'm saying.
The request was for you to reflect over the lunch adjournment, and perhaps this is an opportune moment for us to take the lunch adjournment. Let's resume at 2 p.m.